It's in the mail, I guess.
Thank you all for joining the PAC this evening.
Whoops.
We'll call this the meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee to order. Roll call, additions, deletions, and/or approval of the agenda.
I
I'll
move
make
the
a
agenda be
motion
approved
to-
as circulated.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion is approved and seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried. Declaration of conflict of interest. Hearing none. Approval of the minutes from November the 19th.
I'll move to approve the minutes of November 19th, 2025.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Delayed. The Planning and Development Report. That would be Sir Sean.
So as noted there, I'll send something around by year end. There's still quite a bit of time left, and I figure it may as well all be on one. And honestly, my focus has been almost exclusively on this municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw. So, yeah, that's where we are with that.
All right. We'll get in with the overview of the MPS and the LUB.
Right. So there are probably enough for everyone, paper copies of this, and Danielle, you may have your digital copy of this change matrix for the municipal planning strategy. Or if not, you can just listen along. I'm not going to try to go into a great amount of detail on this. I'm just going to touch on some factors. The way this document is structured, it shows the sections that we're talking about within the municipal planning strategy. It talks about, in some cases, not in all, what was in the integrated municipal planning strategy. That was the one that governed the 5 towns at a high level. It talks a little bit about what is in our Westville secondary planning strategy, which is being collapsed into the integrated strategy and turned into the new Westville municipal planning strategy. So that's what's going on here. And in some instances, there's a few notes. There's a lot of information in this, and this is only a snippet of the document. And between this, the 3 documents, including the land use bylaw, and also looking at our municipal climate change action plan and our integrated community sustainability plan, we've got way over 300 pages of information that we're trying to churn through and condense down into something manageable and that flows better. So it's a bit of a task.
It's a huge task.
And this is, as I've said on numerous occasions, phase 1. So it's a bit of a rough and dirty. There will be definitely some, loose strings and rough edges. There's no question about that. And we're trying to do a bit of a triage in what we have to handle first, like in this round, and what things are better left for a next round when we have time for more consultation and just time to give things some deeper thought. So that's sort of the overview of the process. This printed copy is only a portion of the digital copy that you received, because I knew we wouldn't get through the whole digital copy, and I don't think anyone would have wanted me to try to do that this evening. So just jumping in. The visions and goals, again, that was taken out of a number of documents, and we haven't really gotten into changing that much because we haven't done deep consultation. Those were based upon consultation that was done a while ago. And so, as you've noted, or as I've mentioned, when you look at the actual document, you'll have different colors showing where the information came from. Black is the integrated integrated municipal planning strategy. And then the blue is new, and the red rust color is from our secondary planning strategy. So you can tell where things came from when you review those documents. Eventually, we'll turn it all into just one color, so it isn't strange anymore, or quite so strange. Looking at the objectives section, over time, I think we need to do a better job of writing objectives. There are whole sections which we have policy in, but we don't actually have policy objectives. We're not clear why we have these policies in some instances. And of course, myself and my co-writer can't imagine what those, would have been from the past. We do know what our current objectives are because we've been sitting around this table chatting about them for the last couple years now. In this, again, on the IMPS column, you can see what was in that. And the second one, the SPS column, you can see what was in that. That one was curious to me. All that was discussed in our secondary planning strategy was commercial and industrial and very minimal. It was basically all about the new exit 21, which I guess when they were writing that was the new exciting thing. Totally understandable. Introduced, however, is something that, because of the statements of provincial interest, we've supposed to have had within our document all along, and that's commentary on agricultural soils. Westville actually has Class 3 agricultural soils. And if you look at the wording in the municipal planning strategy, it actually does talk about encouraging agricultural uses within the community. And we haven't really done a lot with that. And that will be one of those things I think that we need to give deeper thought in a future phase of this, because like, what does one do? We have a lot of land. There's no question about that. A lot of it probably won't get developed anytime soon, and so it could certainly be used for agricultural purposes.
We
You
probably
may,
also need to do something around industrial, right? More thinking around
absolutely,
industrial.
100%, because that's changed fundamentally now since this was happening.
And so, we'll want to, at first, we need to wrestle largely the residential stuff to the ground. And then look towards industrial and commercial.
Exactly.
And so, we've got, for example, property that is zoned commercial and industrial, not property. There are areas that are zoned commercial and sort of industrial that we don't have any access to, right? Like, there are no roads to them, there's no power to them, there's no
Right.
water to them.
Yeah.
They're just tracts of land that, are colored the right color for that zone, and that's about it. And so at some point, we're gonna have to deal with that. We just may not be quite there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have to make it make sense, and we have to make it relevant, and we have to make it current. And looking at the old stuff, it's really outdated and not where Westville is right now. And the agricultural part is pretty exciting.
It's
when you think
interesting,
of the food crisis that a lot of people in our community are facing right now. So,
Absolutely.
And more people are kind of becoming more aware that getting back into farming and growing your own fruits and vegetables and various things is pretty key when the prices are the prices that they are and unobtainable for a lot of people in Westville.
Right, if you think about all the reclaimed land that is sitting there just now in kind of grass or hay not being used.
Right.
There's a lot of acreage of land that could be used for something useful at this point.
Yes.
Right now, we've suggested taking out the section on future redevelopment areas. We don't have that zone within the town. Other towns apparently do. And perhaps it was meant to tackle brownfield sites, but it's not clear what their intention was. So for the time being, at least, we've proposed that we would remove that. We've done a reorganization on where a lot of things were located and grouped them in certain instances, again, to try to make more sense of the document. So that's
Right.
something you'll see when you, unless you're actually going back and looking at the old one, you wouldn't even notice. You may just think, oh, this makes sense that these would be together, which is our intention, is that it does make sense how we've grouped things. As an example, in the current version, heritage is within infrastructure, along with, roads and sewers and stuff. And it's like, okay, who thought of that?
Yeah.
Anyway, so we've moved that to a new section. On the municipal infrastructure policies, we've leaned into a lot of discussion around how do we make the best use of what we have already invested in. So that's really pushing toward infill. It's like, let's do as much as we can to develop in the core where we have water, sewer, and roads already. And so there's a lot of discussion around that. And another thing that is a change in hopes of helping reshape an understanding of what the word transportation means. So we've changed it to transportation and mobility. Because transportation is meant to be about primarily moving goods and products and things like that. Mobility is how do we move people? And when, as you know, we're doing the active transportation study, that's about moving people. There are many ways that we move people. And on the other hand, we're pretty much still just schlepping goods and products in trucks and cars and things like that. So this is aimed at opening that conversation up about what does it mean to look at mobility as a different thing from transportation.
Actually moving our bodies in a healthy community.
Sure, exactly. Yeah. And it's already in our document now, but we've added a little bit more sort of preamble and discussion around ways that you can use green infrastructure. And so, for example, we have, as I've mentioned before, wetlands in this community. They're not listed. You would never know from our planning documents currently that there are any wetlands in Westville.
Right.
But if you drive along Campbell's Road, for instance, you would certainly know if you happen to turn sideways at the wrong moment that there were wetlands in in Westville.
Yeah.
And wetlands are an amazing piece of natural infrastructure because when you have a big rain event, they act like a giant sponge. And they also filter all the sediment that's coming off the roads and, and so we need to be a bit more mindful of those things. And in fact, we're required to under various provincial and federal policies.
Environmentally, yeah.
So we have now some policies that we've introduced around that. We've created a new part called community development, and we've moved things like recreation, active transportation, heritage, things like that into this section because these are all the building blocks of a strong, healthy community. And we wanted to kind of highlight those more. So that's one of those changes that I'd mentioned as we try to make sense of all of this information.
So that's part 6, right?
Right.
Just
Another one where we're trying to wrap up a number of things together, we've called it for now, for lack of a better expression, environmental considerations. So we don't do quite enough to talk about how to manage stormwater. And we're lucky in Westville. We don't have floodplains, but we do have flooding. And we have a lot of hard surface in this community. And all that hard surface, when you get heavy rain events, as we get more and more of now, that water has to go someplace quickly. And I'm sure you've all seen the reports of roads being washed out, culverts being washed out, and things like that. So this is something that we'll be introducing into our land use bylaw to talk about how do we manage that in a better fashion when we do development. And, are there things we could be doing to mitigate areas that are problematic for us right now? In that section, there's also discussion on wind energy. It's got to be in there. It's something that the province requires, but it's also a natural resource that we could be drawing on potentially in the community. I know that probably the setback distances for anything large would be push it outside town, but that doesn't mean there are other things we could do. And we could certainly have, for example, solar gardens, which could power up huge amounts of town on some of those lands that are currently not available for development because of the potential for subsidence, as an example. And I've talked about geothermal before. So we're talking a little bit about these opportunities, trying to recreate the sense that Westville is an energy community. It always was, just happened to be about coal in the past, but there's other ways to be an energy community. Part 8, general provisions. So this is a big section. There's always been a section like this that kind of looks at all the different kinds of things that happen across all zones. So there are things like outdoor storage, how to deal with variance applications, fences, signage, temporary special uses, outdoor lighting, non-conforming uses or structures. The list is pretty extensive. We've gotten in there a little bit, but not too much. Just wondering what I should draw attention to here. Nothing is jumping out at me. I think I've mentioned before that I want to get out of the business of regulating swimming pools within these planning documents. We have a swimming pool bylaw. We should be leaning on that almost exclusively. But as we discussed, and as I think this committee made a resolution in regard to, we do want to make sure that the safety requirements around swimming pools are put in place properly. So I have to make sure that there's something in the document that requires not only a permit application, but also an inspection and a sign-off at the end. It's just right now, it's, when someone asks me about a swimming pool, I have to give them about 5 pages of stuff that, from multiple documents, and it's just very confusing and unnecessary. So we're gonna clean that up a little bit.
It really should be more of a bylaw, like
Yeah.
you're
So
just,
we
you
have them.
have to have it fenced, you have to have it this far from,
Right.
like, these are the rules.
Isn't
Yeah,
there something already, but isn't that
that
already part of the
exists,
bylaw?
yeah.
But if you, there's multiple sections in our planning documents as well as the bylaw,
Okay.
and they don't necessarily jive that well,
Okay,
and.
because I knew
yeah.
that there had to be fencing and
There
stuff like
is,
that, that's why
yeah.
I'm like, yeah,
There is, it just doesn't belong in our town planning.
Right.
Like a swimming pool is
Exactly.
not. It seems like one of the old boys club decisions from the past.
quick and easy.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows why we allow kennels, commercial kennels even, in the R1 zone? Can you imagine on Fraser Street or Angel Street, kennel?
With animals, right?
Yeah.
With animals.
And there's no provisions around it. You can just do it.
We still have something about horse troughs?
Um,
There's a
I,
few- there's
I
a
haven't
few that-
seen that exact expression, but you can have horses.
All right,
Chickens?
You can only
don't
have-
bring up chickens, Mitchell's
Chickens.
not here.
Chickens are the
So,
issue.
You can only have 5 or 6 though.
my understanding is that if we want to get into that, and I don't disagree that we should be thinking about that, it wouldn't be within the planning strategy, but it would be its own bylaw.
Yeah.
It'd be like a city bylaw or a town bylaw.
I'm pro-chicken.
Anti-roosters?
Look, we've got neighbors with chickens and ducks and everything. They wander the neighborhood. They say hi to everybody. It's great.
Roosters at 5 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
I'm also pro-eggs
Eggs are very good.
and meat.
mind.
Okay.
So, back to the task at hand.
Pass on that conversation. please.
We
brought up the
we have had mention of flag lots in our documents for some while, but it's been a little bit curious. It seemed that they were only meant to do something for the commercial business park, but not in Westville. And everyone here knows what a flag lot is, right? It's a large lot, but it has only a skinny access to a
Yeah.
road. And we also have some wording around allowing them in our rural residential areas, and it seems like the intention there was to allow someone to have, for example, their child live on the same property but on their own piece of land.
Right.
And so, rather than going through this giant subdivision and putting in municipal roads and these sorts of things, it would allow you to carve out a little bit of the land somewhere on the lot and get there over just a small driveway, as opposed to having a lot of frontage to get to the back 40.
Yeah.
And so there's always been that. The policy and the preamble that existed actually talked about it happening in more zones. But it wasn't ever actually brought into the policy section and the land use bylaw section. So we're now doing that, and I'll touch on that when I get to the land use bylaw discussion in a little bit. And what I'm proposing is basically we say, if we're going to focus development on the core, we have a lot of land that you can't get to right now because it is landlocked. It's not just that you need a flag lot, you actually need an easement to get over someone else's property to get into that land. So ideally, we'll be comfortable with opening that door and allowing development of those lands by providing that gateway into those lands.
Yeah.
You might want to, just a quick suggestion, but we might want to change the change to part to read zone lands in the town of Westville, subject to requirements. Obviously, cut and paste. Says Pictou.
Oh, I see, yes.
Oh, you know why? Because that bit is the one place where it's in our document.
It says
So-
town of Pictou.
Yeah, no, it's in our document though, because our document applied to Pictou as well as Westville and everywhere else. But you're right, in the change to section, it shouldn't mention Pictou.
So-
It probably said Pictou County before, did it?
Just if I could, flag lots are important because of the way Westville has evolved. And we have all these fairly sizable plots of land spread out around town, all of which have some sort of frontage onto services. And if we're ever going to be able to dial down our mill rate or our tax rate, we need more people on each meter of services. And so having, developing on flag lot is one way to have that happen. So if you've got a narrow strip and you've got 5 or 6 or 30 or 40 dwellings back behind the ones that are already along the street, we're able to divide up the cost over many more people, and that will allow us at some point, in theory, to dial down or at least hold steady the tax rate, right?
It's about infill and density.
It's about infill and higher density,
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
One thing that we'll have to embrace to do that, I think, is we're going to have to look at being open to private roads getting into these, because we don't need more roads to maintain. And so that would allow a narrower road. It would still have to be a safe road. We'd have to be able to get emergency equipment in over it, but it isn't something that we would have to own. And so right now, our subdivision bylaw and our land use bylaw both require frontage on a road. And so that's something that has to be adjusted in order to move toward using flag and landlocked lots.
Yeah, and especially if we're moving, if we start moving towards pocket neighborhoods and those sorts of things, then allowing, you know, so it would be kind of like, you know, the current example, I guess I think of in that is Jerry Lane right now, right?
Right.
It has not been assumed by the town. It's needs to be taken care of by the owner of that whole development until such time as that whole development is done, and then as a result of the development agreement that was reached way back in whatever it was, 2010 or something, then the town does have to assume that road. But on a go-forward basis, we may not want to go to that place anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Where
Right.
it's, oh, okay, you wanna do a development of you know, I'm gonna make this up, like the one on Union Street. Maybe that could or should remain a private road forever. And the town doesn't have responsibility then to go in and
Makes sense.
maintain it and, you know, all that sort of stuff. So, that's something that the whole flag lot discussion opens up, I think.
Absolutely.
The important part of that is that in those types of developments, if that is to happen, that the people that are going to be residing in those developments are aware of that
100%.
up front, clearly, without any question, whose responsibility it is. Those of you who campaigned in Jerry Lane prior to the last election probably know what I'm talking about. There's a great confusion there as to who is responsible for maintaining that Jerry Lane, you know, and, you know, people basically
I
say
think
that.
that developer did that on purpose.
Well, yes, and that's, yeah, and I, you know,
Created the confusion.
Well, and also,
Right.
you don't
Right.
really make a agreement that this is how it's gonna be, and how it's gonna be for the next 15, 20-year
oh,
agreement.
sure you
Like,
can.
yeah, well, you can, but why would you? Like, why did we do that?
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah, no, that was, because that was,
It makes no sense.
Well,
that was the way
and-
the
and
structure was.
And I think at the time, I assume at the time, everybody, developer and the town, assumed that the development would happen in a kind of a reasonable time period,
Right.
right? Not 20 years.
And that the
Right.
road is
Right?
brought
We're,
up,
we're at 15 years.
Yeah, but, yeah.
and the road is brought up to the standard
Yeah.
acceptable to the
Exactly.
town.
And so-
The other
Yeah.
thing, you know, and a good example of that is that, you know, look down on Angel Drive. Angel Street, I should say.
or, yeah,
Top
reasonable.
Angel.
Yeah.
That was, you know, that road was put in there by the developer who developed Angel Street. And it was never brought up to in my opinion, you know, it's my opinion, but it was never brought up to a standard that should have been accepted by the town, and yet it was. And we're saddled with a street that's in poor condition all the time, because it was not done properly. So, you know, our responsibility will be that when the developer plans to turn it over to us, that make sure that it's up to standards that we can accept, right? So, I mean, that has to be part of whatever's in the policy, obviously, to make sure that that's clear. I know it's there, but we have to enforce it.
Well, and then stupid things don't happen. We don't have unhappy people that are living in our community that things aren't up to proper acceptance, and other stupid things where certain chunks of road aren't paved and should be. And we make smarter decisions so our community members are happier.
Right.
But I agree with the idea of, working into this, on those pocket-type neighborhoods that we're talking about, that the option be there, that the developer continues to maintain the road, the streets. It owns the streets, basically, right? We don't need more streets. We have the most kilometers of streets in this province, next to, any town in the province next to Truro.
Yeah.
That we have to maintain,
Maintain.
and it's a burden, tremendous burden to this town.
It's a massive burden and very expensive.
Especially when you get all the snow starting in December.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Sorry.
I'm going to actually make a little leap and then come back to the path that I was on. One of the things that under our half obligation, our Housing Accelerator Fund obligation, is to enable the creation of compact housing. And so one of the ways you do that, and also help address the issue with needing more people living on every meter of our infrastructure, is that you reduce lot sizes, you reduce lot frontages.
Yep.
And so that is one thing that in all of our residential zones, you'll see when I put up the land use bylaw, to the extent that we get into it this evening, that I've said, okay, if we allow people to be creative in how they build their housing, they can live on smaller lots than the ones that have been put in place now. Like if you were speaking about Angel Street, I don't know what the lot sizes are there, but I don't think they actually meet the current requirements. The current requirements are 100 feet of frontage and a 10,000 square foot lot, which is massive in an urban situation. And most towns are in a similar area would be 50 feet would be the normal minimum size. And so we've got half as many houses per meter of infrastructure as a consequence.
Same cost of infrastructure.
Same cost of infrastructure. That's right.
Can I jump back to flag lots for a quick
Sure.
second?
Wave your flag.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I was thinking, like more like a shared driveway. Can we
So-
have that in the policy that's clear? Like if this is a
100%.
family on family land and you're, like the first example you gave was they're going to be, their children and then their children's children and whoever else is going to build properties on the family space. Instead of it being a road or being a whatever, could it not just be from the same driveway, just extended?
Absolutely.
Like the McKinnon compound.
No. No.
So,
Like where I live,
Incorrect.
I have a driveway.
Yes.
Right? But I have a massive piece of property in behind my house.
right,
But there's no access to it, other than my yard.
right.
So
So
but that
that's
is
where,
usable land.
that's where the landlocked part comes in.
Yeah.
So for example, you could have lots created that you would not have access to directly on the public road, but you would have a deeded easement to travel over, and you would have maintenance agreements would have to be part of it too.
Right.
So that-
Well, if it's a driveway, it's your own driveway to maintain.
Well, except that if you're sharing it with a number of parties,
Then you all got to sign on that you're going to plow your driveway.
Right.
that's the maintenance agreement.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like an agreement.
And it's nothing to do with the town of Westville.
Right.
So that will come up in
Get a snow blower.
my current proposal for
All right.
flag and landlocked lots within the LUB, the land use bylaw.
Right? Yeah.
Okay, so.
Okay, thank you.
Part 9 is now the residential section, and we've broken these out more than they were in the past. In the past, everything, all the land use bylaw stuff was jumbled together more, or the actual zone sections.
Excuse me, can I just interrupt for 1 sec, Mr. Chair? Have we lost Danielle?
Yes.
We did a while ago.
We did. She had a bad connection
Oh,
and
okay, sorry.
she's.
I just wanted
yeah.
to make sure it wasn't
No,
on,
okay.
wasn't on our end.
No.
Okay.
No.
Sorry.
So in the current documents, a lot of things were repeated many times. And so, again, that just made it awkward, and people were wondering, like, well, why are you talking about commercial stuff in the residential section and things like that? And so we've now created a new general residential section, and so policies that apply to all the zones or most of the zones now fall there.
Right.
And so, for instance, we've got things like garden suites, garage suites, home occupations, things like that are now in this general section because they don't only apply to one zone, they can apply to several zones. So that's a one-stop shop for those sorts of things that shouldn't be repeated over and over and over again in each of those zones. And as noted here, there's a lot of change in this one. I think I've talked about the idea of gentle density before. And so this is where, within a community that is pretty spacious, you can double and triple the number of people living in it without it being apparent as you're driving around the community. Whereas if you rely on really big apartment complexes, pretty hard to hide those. And so we've really focused a lot in this document on finding ways to put more people kind of dispersed throughout the community as opposed to in large clumps. Now, that's not to say that we wouldn't, consider someone who came along and said, look, we want to put up, 100 units on one site. We'd certainly take a look at that. But it doesn't need to be the only way we go about increasing our density. And it also helps us make better use of our existing infrastructure.
Right.
And so that is things like garden suites, second units, basement suites, these sorts of things. And even allowing, like if you have a larger house that you don't need that much space anymore, when I think about, for example, there's a famous street in the city where there were a lot of mansions. Every one of them has 5, 6, 7, 8 units in it. And that's the only way they can afford to keep up those buildings. Because no one needs 8,000, 9,000 square feet of house anymore, and
Right.
probably couldn't afford it even if they did. So we can look at finding ways to welcome a lot more people into the community of Westville than we have, based upon pretty restrictive zoning that we've had up until now. And so we talk a lot about infill opportunities, and we are looking at how do we allow the creation of smaller lots, which allow smaller compact houses. We have had to kind of scour these documents to find all the ways that the drafters of the documents that we've been working with tried to make sure no one put up a mini home or a mobile home anywhere, because it was embedded in everything. It was embedded in definitions, in policies. There was regulation scattered all through the policies in the land. It was just amazing how many places that was.
That was bad back then.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's some of the work that we've been doing. And we also wanted to really look at how do we make it easier to welcome what we want to happen. Because right now, we rely on development agreements for a lot. And development agreements take a lot of time, and they introduce a lot of uncertainty and cost, and possibly neighbors being pitted against one another. So what we're working at doing is only in a large or very significant change would we use that heaviest of planning tools. For everything else, we're going to use lighter tools like as of right, just put in place requirements and say, look, in this neighborhood, you can have 2 units. You can have 2 units in a garden suite, or
Right.
whatever the neighborhood,
Yeah.
whatever the zone is.
Yeah.
So that way, they will come in and see us, and provided they show us plans that meet all the requirements in terms of setbacks and things like that, then we can say, yes, you can go ahead and build that.
As of right doesn't mean it's unregulated. but-
Correct. It-
Like, that's the important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, yes, it's a right if you meet the.
Standard.
criteria,
Right.
Criteria,
Yeah.
And we also are going to lean more on additional requirements. So for example, if something says, in this zone, you have to have these setbacks and this size lot and this size frontage. But if it's a little bit unusual in that zone, then we would have additional requirements. So like for instance, there's one around garden and garage suites where it talks about where windows can go. So you don't put your living room window looking into your neighbor's swimming pool, for instance.
Yeah.
So those would be additional requirements beyond the normal setback requirements and things like that.
Yeah.
It's funny, when you look at these documents, they talk about preserving neighborhood character. And it's like, well, which neighborhood and which character are we preserving? And can you point it out to me? Because they never do that. But it's usually how they try to stop things from happening is by talking about that. we've tried to change how we use that a little bit. Okay, what else here? Oh. This isn't the elephant in the room, but I did want to bring it up. We have talked about it before, and I'd like to get a consensus on at least what to call it for public engagement. To me, and I've said this before, the really important neighborhoods are the ones right around the downtown. If we're trying to really do a good job of making use of our existing infrastructure, getting more people living in the core community, this is, to me, the number one zone in terms of the residential zones. And so I had said before, and I still actually like this one the best, that I wanted to call this one the residential core, as in core of the community. And then previously I had talked about what we currently think of as R1, which suggests it's the number one zone. I had talked about calling that suburban residential or something along those lines. And it seemed to be bothering people that they should be called suburban. I don't know why, because I think that's what it is. But I thought, what if we were to call it the residential periphery? So it's the periphery around the core. So it's very objective. There's nothing, mean-spirited about it. It simply is. This area lies outside the core, denser kind of area of the town. And so that's what I'm proposing to call them right now. And we would be looking at the RC zone, residential core, or the RP zone, residential periphery. Any particular feelings on that? Because if I keep using numbers, it automatically implies a number one position and a number two position, or how many dwelling units you can have.
But that's a universal sort of
Well, it used to be.
zoning, right?
Right.
Is not?
It's not anymore.
Not anymore?
No, because now what people are looking at is what I'm talking about. Is like, well, is that
Name it
the
what it
only
is.
intention? Is the only important thing density? And it's not.
Right.
In fact, density is now thought of as the good thing, not a bad thing, right?
Historically, it's been, in most communities.
Yes.
Your zoning is R1,
Right.
R2, commercial.
And so-
Agriculture, whatever.
As everyone rewrites their planning documents, they are all moving away from that.
Okay.
Anybody in Pictou County doing that yet?
I haven't seen the new Pictou County one. New Glasgow's writing a new document right now, and the other three towns have basically kept the same document as we're moving away from. So they probably still have the same language.
Yeah.
Okay. The only reason I question that is just because we are so interconnected, even though we're all different towns and communities. That might be one that we might want to have similar language so that.
Everything else about this is changing.
That's
So-
true. That's true. I'm just saying,
But
like.
you don't want to make it confusing to others.
Well, yeah, especially if people start to realize how awesome Westville is and they leave New Glasgow, which I couldn't blame them, right? But if they came here,
Yeah, I don't think anybody buys.
You didn't pick up on that?
You buy the piece of property on the basis of, does this property suit my needs? Does the house on this property suit my needs?
Right.
And then you check out, the zoning is.
yeah, nobody really checks out the zoning, I guess.
The issue, right?
That's true.
Nobody makes a decision on the basis of what the name of the zone is.
Right. And do we have a downtown core?
We do.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't think we need to coordinate with the other towns. I think if we have a vision for our town moving forward,
Yeah.
either people will start to see why this makes sense for their community, and if they don't, we have to decide what is right for our town. If we keep saying it's got to fit what everybody else is doing, we are not moving forward. So I personally think those are terms that people can understand. I think suburban, people often think of what I would call like the Scarborough model, like it's near a large urban
Yeah.
center. I think that gets people thinking quite differently. I think if we define what you would call the limits of the core, like sort of a map of that, and beyond that periphery, I think people would get that. And with you, I don't think people buy property based on R1, R2, R3. Most people don't even know what that means. Because when I got these documents, I was showing some to people, they said, I don't even know what that, if I'm buying a house, I'm buying a house because I want to live in that community.
Right.
So
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, unless you're a planner.
That's right. So,
So really,
so
we
I
could be
think
trailblazers.
That's right. So I think it's more
Yeah.
important to think, what is it we want to
Yeah.
communicate to our community? Whether Trenton or others go on board, I don't know. But if they're choosing to stay with a document that's extremely difficult for most people to read or understand. I don't think that's our responsibility. Our responsibility is to look at what works best for Westville.
And make it easy.
Yeah, and make it more sensible and easy
Yeah.
for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think to get it as plain a language as possible for everything that we're looking at here, and, you know, if we can name it something other than, you know, a number, or letter and a number, so be it, which would better identify to people that aren't familiar with the area.
What about
Type of
Antigonish? Do they do that?
They've got so many different names, and they don't use R1, R2 anymore.
They don't,
No.
eh?
They have way too many zones right
As
now.
long as, I think, Sean, it may be that when you use the term suburban, like as one of the zones, my point was that as long as people don't confuse that with that there be separate tax rates for a suburban area as opposed to a core area, as opposed to whatever you call it, you know, if it's not R2, whatever it is. Because I only say that because in the amalgamated regions, in the regional areas of HRM, CBRM, and
Yeah.
those places, they have different tax structures for, depending on where you live, outside of the core. And there's
Yeah.
one of the zones is called a suburban. There's a suburban tax rate, you know, as opposed to a core tax rate. As
'Cause you're
opposed to, I
further
don't know what
from
the
the
other ones
core.
are. But
Yeah.
there's different levels of taxation based on where you are from the center, right?
Well, it
And
kind of makes sense.
that was the only reason
Yeah.
I said, that's the only reason I commented on using the term suburban.
Right.
That's the only reason, that people might think there's a separate tax rate.
Right.
And we have one tax rate, residential,
Yeah.
Right, but, yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
regardless of the zone.
One
Exactly.
town.
That zoning doesn't drive tax rates.
No, assessment.
Council drives tax rates,
Uh,
and the council is
driven by
able to
assessment.
choose, you know, what the
Council
tax rate
drives
is
tax
in
rates.
whatever place. So if your choice is
How are we doing that?
the same tax rate across the town,
Mm.
that's,
Right.
regardless of what zone you're in, that's the rate you
But
get.
I like the idea of coming up with the names that better identify, you know.
What's
what it
best
is.
for Westville?
Well, and I'm absolutely open to alternatives that spring from that basis, that kind of describe the context of those areas versus the area that's immediately around the downtown and is more historic. The one that I struggled with the most is the next one, and that's what we used to call R3. Now, R3 is a bit of a funny one anyway, because in the past you had R1, which used to symbolize or indicate that you had a single unit dwelling, and then you may have a little garden suite or something. And then R2 was 2-unit dwellings, and then R3 was what, 3? But it wasn't. It was meant for apartment buildings and things, right? And so it kind of jumped out of the lane right off the bat. And as we've been talking about things like pocket neighborhoods and tiny home communities and things like that, and we also have, I've had conversations with people that wanted to be able to put more than one building on a lot. We have different kinds of medium density ways of living, like you can have quadplexes, you can have eights, you can have apartment buildings that are larger than that, you can have townhouses. So I landed on calling it residential mixed zone. And allowing people to do, you could have, if you did a large property, say someone buys one of our 9-acre properties that we have a lot of, they could do a mix on that to create more of a complete zone. So they could have, you know, maybe you come in down a road of townhouses, but then down in one corner they put up a 4-story tower or something like that. Not a tower, but a 4-story building that is more like a standard apartment building. And maybe they secure a little area where they do a pocket neighborhood that's a smaller individual. Like why would we say no to that? You're creating a much more interesting community.
Well,
and more of a village almost. And so that's where I landed on mixed. But again, I'm not stuck on that. It's just where I landed
Mixed.
at this point.
Well, as you know, a lot of the inquiries that we've been getting, particularly in the last year, I would say, are of that nature. They're you know, the developers that are coming to us now are looking at, you know, that mixture of housing
Right.
types, right? Tiny homes, compact homes, pocket neighborhoods, townhouses, all those things are now things that weren't, you know, common to becoming interested in doing in Westville up until the last year in particular, right? So, yeah, we need to be with the times and sort of not be dictated by what the developers are looking to do, but to better be able to deal with those requests when they come, right? have those areas already zoned. So we did the comprehensive
Yes.
development zone, out on South Main, at the school site, former
And
school site.
this could
Very similar.
actually maybe become like that. Maybe it
Right.
actually, we could maybe find ourselves not needing the CDD after some point, if depending on how we structure this zone.
We want to, so in my opinion, we want to make it as easy as possible for Mr. Developer, when he comes, to move through the steps that are
Yeah.
required by the act to get to the point of shoveling the ground and putting up structures.
Yes.
We want to expedite that as much as we can without, being mindful of being in control, obviously. There are rules, and there's regulations, and there's policies, and there's steps that need to be taken. But to make it as easy as possible, we don't want to put up impediments to people to say, well, we tried to do development in Westville, but, it took too long, and too many steps, there's too many, hearings and all this stuff, and, we'll go somewhere where it's easier. Not that there are any places that it's easier, probably most places are harder even still than what we are right now.
Oh, absolutely.
My opinion.
Yes.
That's a perception. That's a perception.
So let me wrap up the new zone names, or not new in some cases. Right now, I'm proposing just to keep using the term rural residential for kind of the part that won't see any intensive development and probably will remain unserviced for some period of time. I don't see why we couldn't use that, and it's probably the most likely use of those lands. We haven't had a chance to study that very carefully. It's not the main thing we're looking at. We're trying to provide lots of housing, not sort of sparse housing right now. And so I think that that's one of the things that we will study further in the future. And then the last one is another, to me, in a weird way, or not weird, just changing our perceptions about housing. We've long had probably what people call a mobile home park zone. I think it's called a mini home, but we still refer to mobile home parks. I'm proposing, as you know, if you've taken a look at this, to call it a land lease community. Then it opens the door to having anything in it that would be in a land lease community.
Right.
And so this can be another place where we could accommodate pocket communities. And we could also accommodate sections where they just do tiny houses.
Right.
And you could also, for instance, within a park like this, the owner could build something like a small apartment or a row of townhouses.
Yeah.
And it really opens the door to a lot of interesting development potential.
There could be site-built structures as well as manufactured structures.
Totally. And so in an interesting flip of the coin, this kind of could become a hero for the town by changing the nature of those kinds of communities. And I'd like to get your comments on that, if anyone
My
has.
comment is that's what they are. The mini home parks, I would suggest that Cowan Place, for example, it's a land use community.
And
People-
lease.
Lawn lease,
Yeah.
lease.
Absolutely. It's just that they're only one kind of building in there.
Yes,
And-
no, I
but
know
they,
that, yeah,
but
no.
this would open the door to them
Right.
having any number, like if they have enough land and they want different neighborhoods within the park, this would open the door to that?
Yep.
And presumably would also open the door, excuse me, to services of some sort, like a small convenience store.
Sure.
So that you don't have to get in your car and drive for 5 minutes to get your liter of milk. A developer might decide to put in 30 units, and, one of those actually has, commercial on the ground floor and residential above, for example, right?
It
So
just,
the people could walk to the corner store, could, whatever. Yeah.
it occurs to me to mention this, again, not for consideration right now, because we don't have the time to, give it due consideration, but one of the surprises I discovered when I moved to Antigonish was Whiddon's Campground, which
Yeah.
is right in the middle of the town, and you
Right.
don't know it's there. It's amazing. And it's a substantial campground, and people come from all over North America and stay there. And some people, actually, who live in and around the community, live in the campground all summer. They leave their houses and move into their campers for the entire summer. And the kids love it because there's a pool, and they also love the little convenience store, to your point, because they sell a lot of candy. But you can walk a block and get a cappuccino at a nice little restaurant. So it's something that Westville has the land to do, should anyone ever come along and want to do it. And it wouldn't be bothered by the subsidence issues we have in some of those vast areas that are just, reclaimed industrial lands right now. Just popped into my head. I thought I'd mention it to kind of come back to at some point. And that, you know, that brings a lot of people into the community that wouldn't otherwise show up there. All right, where was I? Converted dwellings. So we've always had the ability to do converted dwellings, and that just means taking a house usually and adding one or more units within the same structure. This is, I think, potentially another one of our hero opportunities, is to do a better job with these, because we have a lot of housing that is underutilized right now, or not being used at all, which is kind of the extreme extent of being underutilized. And so we're going to lean a little bit more on this, but we're also going to ask, if we get everyone's support, that people put back some of the architectural detail that's been stripped out of these houses over time. So we're going to let you have more density, but in exchange, we're going to ask you to spend some more time thinking about the street feel of these places. Like, what kind of a facade do they have, and do they have some landscaping? Because that could, over time, within our core neighborhood, really start to play a positive role in resurrecting some of the neighborhoods that have become tired over time. I didn't know when to strike a period that we would really encourage this for. I put things constructed previous to 1950 as creating those kinds of neighborhoods we have around town, but that was kind of a shot in the air. And I don't know if council or members of the public have a sense of, you know, was it up to World War II? Was it some period before that where a lot of these neighborhoods were constructed? I don't have that answer.
Clary McKinnon?
Well, when you cast your mind's eye around the downtown neighborhoods that are around downtown, when would they have been built up to typically? Like, what era? Was it up to 1930s? Was it 1940s? Was it 1950s? The architecture to me looks like up to 1940s maybe.
Actually, the downtown core, a lot of that core with the false fronts from years ago, that existed to a large extent, going back almost to 1900
Sure.
to 1925.
I'm thinking more about the residential neighborhoods.
We had tram cars, too.
I know, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about.
No, not the downtown core, but the residential core around the downtown. Like, you know, streets like Diamond and Duff and, you know, Water Street and West Street.
A
And
place on Diamond Street that my grandfather rented when he came here in 1906.
sure. But when was the end of the building, kind of the big building period, creating those neighborhoods?
When the mine
That's-
was open.
It had to do with mining.
Westville's
More than anything else.
heyday was 1911 to 1921. You know, that's when 5,000 people lived here.
Right. So probably if I set up until World War II would basically be, things would have slowed down after that probably? Is that about right? I just want
Once
to,
upon a time,
Slowed down before that. Because of what?
once upon a time, the South Main Street, for instance, those were all, what do they call it, the mining houses.
Yeah.
The managers' houses.
Yeah, not particularly managers, just.
Company houses.
yeah.
Company houses.
The whole thing was company houses.
Tom Clark's was
and,
manager house.
Then eventually, they tore the company houses, they fell down, or they
Right.
got to the point where they tore them down, and people built ordinary houses on them, but Westwood was built on mining, like,
I just-
the reason
like-
why it was here.
So those houses on South Main, for example, or Church Street in that area, they would be after that. Most of those would come after.
Oh, yeah.
After the company houses were gone.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Once mining started to leave town, then that, that was, there was lots of it.
the main transition happened when you started to see bungalows, but I don't know when the bungalows started in
When
this
did the
community.
bungalows start? Because Grandpa's working in the Drummond. Until when?
Bungalows in the 1940s.
They weren't invented then.
I think your 1950s
After
would
the
be
war.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
bungalows,
because
yeah.
CMHC,
That we live in was a bungalow. It was built in the 1940s,
Yeah.
but it's been doubled in size.
right.
If you wanted to have a real bungalow, you had to go to Breton, and it was just your garage, and you towed it to the beach.
What we call a
Called a
bungalow
bungalow,
is a
what?
story and a half.
It's a
Really?
cottage.
Okay, but that's,
Story with,
But what you're thinking of are the
Bungalow is a
1950s
cottage.
one.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say 19.
Didn't even have a foundation, right?
yeah. But the bungalow, I think Max is on to,
Yeah,
like what
I
I'm
think-
thinking of, it's a standard bungalow. It's
Standard
like-
1950s style, not what is being described as a story and a half.
Yeah, that's not
the
a
language
bungalow.
anymore.
Okay.
So my belief is it would be the 1950s, would be
Yeah.
those are what we're seeing here, because that's when that style started. So I think if you're looking at what homes could be used to add additional people within a building, I think you're probably right in thinking it's sort of the 1950s and previous.
Yeah.
And trying to keep the character of those homes.
It's about the character too
That's
that
right.
they provide.
And the size
Right.
of the home.
Yeah.
Yes, because
More than the
in
year.
the 1950s, people had larger families, so many of those homes have 2 or 3 bedrooms or 3
So
bedrooms.
I would suggest it's more to do with the character and the size as opposed to the age.
Well, a lot of the ones that I'm most interested in are the smaller ones too, because they're the ones that you see everywhere, and they have a lot of character. They just haven't necessarily been kept up, and they're the ones that can be really charming and create a lot of neighborhood character.
Yeah, we know for a fact that most people that are coming in looking at creating residential development in town are talking about new development, new homes, and not even thinking about the reno aspect of renovating existing homes into new rental units, for example.
Yeah.
And we know that that's happening in other parts of this country, and it doesn't seem to be a thing that's happening a lot here in our region. Is that fair to say, or am I not
I
aware
think
of
that it depends on if you want to talk only about developers or if you want to talk about individuals in the community being able to do something with their home.
Right.
Right, so they're more likely to be able to take an existing smaller home and put in some sweat equity and create something new from existing housing stock, whereas developers often don't want the fuss of doing a reno. Because there's too many unknowns in that, right?
It's a return on investment.
That's right, it's all about return on investment. So this is basically us encouraging people of the community or people moving to the community to tackle one of these older places, like the fellow on
Take it on and
what is
flip
it, Campbell's Road
Yeah.
on the corner there is doing. He's done such an amazing job of that, and there's someone else doing another one right now too in town.
We had one down on Old Truro Road that was quite remarkable.
Oh,
in the transformation.
that's right, absolutely.
That place.
So I'll keep 1950s in there, and it's just a sort of a general target
I
date.
don't think
Does-
that we need to,
Yeah.
not something we need to live and die on.
Nope.
All the bungalows that
When-
were built on Monroe Street were built in the 60s.
60s, yeah.
Yeah, they were,
When was the big fire
It's a good location.
yeah.
in Westville?
We had several fires.
Yeah.
in Westville.
Which one you want?
There was one down, the churches and stuff, but then there was one downtown too, right?
Yeah, the downtown.
Yeah.
A lot of the downtown was destroyed.
It was destroyed, yes. What year was that? Do you remember, Claire?
Before my time.
Yeah.
40 years ago then, right? No.
Even before my time, long before my
All right.
I think nonetheless, you need to have it in your planning policy, because I think this is an excellent point about some of those big older houses, like the one I live in, could actually be be dwellings for more than one family.
Yeah.
And so I think you have to be willing to encourage that. That's just one way
Oh, yeah.
of expanding space, but also may attract people who would think that would help to pay a mortgage, to bring younger people into the community. So I'm hoping that although, whether it's 1950s, 1940s, 1960s, the fact is it has to be there.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think most people in other areas are paying their mortgage because they have legal basement suites below them.
Or illegal.
Well, then we go to a different meeting, but yeah.
And we have some historic houses too, with,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me about it.
have had famous people live in them, and
Yes, Waldo Monroe.
exactly.
So it's getting on a time. I'm going to try to keep jogging us along. My co-writer is really looking at And my own document here is out of order, and maybe all of them are, so I'll have to take a look at that.
You've lost me, by the way. Just a quick note.
I'm just listening.
Because the pages aren't numbered and I can't.
I know, that's the problem, that they're not numbered. You're absolutely
I
right.
think we're on policy RD23 on-site servicing.
RDT, what do we do?
No, we didn't get
Swear
that far
words?
ahead, I don't think, but,
R2D2?
so,
Policy,
I'm gonna talk a
Good
little
one.
bit
Good one,
quickly when we get to the core and when we get to the periphery and the land use bylaw, I'll show you some of the changes I'm proposing there to increase density. There's a policy I want to call attention to. Okay, so again, one of our half requirements, I've already mentioned this, but I want it in here in a clear statement. So we are talking about the fact that we're going to find ways to encourage and facilitate development of compact housing, not in a zone, but throughout. So there's no reason they all have to be in one spot. They can be all through the town. So this is kind of taking a different approach to the one that was originally anticipated, which was to create a zone. This is like, why would we put them all in one area? You actually risk some sort of odd ghettoization if you do that, as opposed to having them dispersed throughout the community. So the policy intent is to do that, to allow people to create compact lots, compact homes throughout the community.
Yeah, the intent of the tiny home thing was always that, right? Not to create a spot where they all are, but acknowledge that there are types of properties that are suitable for compact homes that could be put there, right? So it was not about zoning a particular spot, it was about providing for the opportunity to create a home that was less than 1,000 square feet, right? And wherever a small lot existed, you could put a small house on it, as opposed to leaving the lot vacant, which is what had been
Was always done in the past
the
because of the old
approach, right?
rules.
Oh,
That's right.
This is a small lot, it's too small for a house. Well, no, it's not. If you just
Build a
if
small
you
house.
scale,
Color,
yeah,
too.
you
You
scale
can
the
actually
house
Exactly.
of the
Or the
lot.
one on Cowan
It
Street
can
was a
still
small lot.
house
That's a big
person
house.
Or a family or whatever,
Yeah.
if they're willing to live in that sort of space.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had a bunch of lots that were deemed undevelopable because they were seen to
Well,
be too small. Well, they're not too small.
No.
If anyone,
Allow people to
on-site
have
servicing
smaller
one.
homes.
and if you
Yeah.
want to see a very current, recent example of that, take a drive down Cowan Street
what
and
I
look at
just
the new
said.
home that's
Yeah.
just gone up there in the last week. And I gotta say, it went up, they had that house up and,
Fast.
and weather tight
Yeah.
in 2 days. I don't know who's doing it, but man, that was unbelievable. 2 days. I mean, they built it on site.
Yeah.
And it was up and weather tight in 2 days. And it's on a very small lot. But it's a reasonably
It's
to
a
me,
nice size
a
home.
reasonable size home.
Yeah.
Very
More than
nice.
adequate size home.
Yeah.
It's not a tiny home, but it's on a small lot.
Cowan
Take a drive
Street.
down Cowan,
It's on the
you'll see
right-hand
it.
side, there's a new house right on the corner,
Yeah.
going on, out Cowan
Just
Street
past,
on the
past
right.
McKay.
Just past McKay. There's a house, and then there's a new house.
It's phenomenal
Yeah.
how fast that home went up.
So when
Well,
you-
we
when-
changed the tiny home rule a long time ago, right? So now you can do stuff like this.
When you think about some of the highest assessment in all of Nova Scotia, it's in the south end of Halifax. And the lots there are around 40 feet wide by 80 feet deep. And the houses are $1 million.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't need a big lot to have a nice
Oh,
house.
It's a very paradigm shift in thinking for a lot of people to get to this point.
Yes.
To look
Yeah.
at what we have as properties and what can go on them. It's not something that has existed before. So,
No.
you know, there's a bit of that.
Housing crisis drives that.
Exactly.
But, from a municipal perspective too, a lot of municipalities are realizing that lower densities are breaking the bank, that they can't afford lower densities. They can't continue to provide the
That's issue
services.
That's the issue we face in this town.
Yeah.
It's very obvious. We have a large geographic area, 14 square kilometers, and we have low-density housing. But it costs the same, as we said before, to service, one home as it does to service 10 or 20.
Nearly 50 kilometers of roads.
Yeah, 50 kilometers of road.
And under most of those roads.
So
are water
I
systems, sewer
I guess what that says, Sean, to me, any policies that we're developing regarding land use and all that sort of stuff, that needs to be the focus, to encourage us to get out of that dilemma. And, people say, why are your taxes so high? That's why they're so high.
Yeah,
That's, it's just a numbers game.
and we pay for our roads.
So there's an
Not
interesting,
like
The
the county.
municip-
It's not like the county. We need to
municipality.
pay for servicing
Yeah.
our roads.
Yeah, we pay for all those roads
yes.
that were left to rot, fall apart.
So
Another topic.
my co-writer is suggesting an interesting twist on the neighborhood commercial zone. He's actually proposing that we allow, through site plan approval within the core residential area, we allow small commercial uses. So it may mean that we don't need to have a special zone for that. We can actually just have it be allowed in there through site plan approval, so that the neighborhood would get to say if they were, concerned about some aspect, and there would be an opportunity to address those concerns, because it goes to council, and
Okay.
you use site plan approval if there should be an appeal. So I want to give some more thought to that, and Scott and I have been talking about how to manage the conundrum we have now, which is the way the C2 zone was written, and that we still currently have, is that it was supposed to be by rezoning on an individual basis based upon what someone was proposing to do.
Right.
And that way you would have the opportunity to say, oh, like, we're a little concerned about this, can you do this? Can you put that over there instead of out here in the front? Oh, not really keen on you doing that there. So we don't currently have that ability, given that so many of these properties are zone C2 right now. And the idea behind doing that was to open the door to more commercial activity within the town. But I think we can find a way to, not to have our cake and eat it too, but at least to say, yes, we want within the downtown core and around it, the residential neighborhoods around it, more commercial activity, but we want some safeguards too. So it may not need an extra zone. It could be that you can do site plan approval for small commercial uses that are more than a home occupation. And if someone wants to do something more than that, then you would probably get into a development agreement rather than a rezoning.
Right.
And so that might be something that we should spend a little time chatting about.
Right. And I guess one of the logics that, when we proposed and you passed, or previous council passed, the rezoning from R2 to C2, the logic at the time was that one of the ways to maintain those buildings was to allow them to transition into commercial activities.
Right.
So that dentists and doctors and lawyers and accountants and whatever, engineers, would use them as offices, for example. And so they would retain the look and the feel of the community, but, would allow different kinds of activities on there. One of the things, I guess, that, Mr. Days brought to my attention is that, when he has had people who want to start businesses in the C2 area, the majority of those things have been things that I would never have thought people would want to do, which is like sell used cars out of their home.
Right.
And park a bunch of used cars on their front yard and sell. Well, no, that doesn't.
It's not
that
what we're
isn't a
going for.
helpful kind of
Yeah.
commercial activity for a town.
Right.
And so, there is a kind of unanticipated, I guess I was a bit naive, expecting that what people would want to do with houses would be to turn them into offices, or live upstairs and have a bit of a corner store in the bottom, or those sorts of things, right? That are actually net benefits to people and communities, as opposed to a bunch of old cars that are being sold, right? So, anyway, so I think we have to, the intent was right.
Sorry, yes.
But, I guess we were a little naive, and so. we're
Not
gonna try and
naive,
fix
just
that,
new to
fix that.
Westville, maybe. Not naive.
A couple more that I want to bring to your attention. And again, this document is still in flux, right? So everything that's in here is still changing. But there is, it's called Policy RD 11, and it's calling up vacant lots and dwellings. Now, I've talked about this before, and I know it's a real challenge for us. And what it's saying essentially is that, I'm just going to actually read the way it's drafted right now. So it's council's desire to embrace the character of the neighborhoods falling within the, it currently says UR1, but residential core, while carefully addressing neglect and modern needs. To this end, it should be the intention of council to study, and where deemed advisable, adopt a series of policies and bylaws intended to address dilapidated properties and in particular vacant lots and vacant dwellings. I scratched out the last bit because it's suggesting a path that we would have to go down, and I don't think we need to suggest that in this policy. But if we're going to encourage development, and if we're going to try to raise up the neighborhoods around the core of the community, we need to give that some thought, in my view, and I've expressed this a number of times now, and it's a challenge for us, there's no question, particularly given our staffing resources. But putting it in here, what it's doing is saying, we're just letting you know that we're going to be looking at this. It's not saying what exactly we're going to do, because we don't know yet, but it's saying that it's important that we start taking care of these neighborhoods.
So with vacant lots now that we have, that the town owns, when we sell them, that's a stipulation that there's a time frame as the fact that you have to do something with that. You have to build on that lot.
Right.
You can't just buy the lot and let it be vacant. You know, in a 2-year period, I believe it is, you have to have something on that lot.
So that's actually a policy that the town has that is in line with this
So,
policy.
so my question is, can we develop a policy that applies to privately owned lots in town? Can we say to you, so you own a lot, you own a private lot in town, and you intend to, you have it for sale, you're gonna sell it. Can we, as a town, say, when that lot is sold, it must be something built on it within a 2-year period?
I don't know that the MGA would allow us to do that, probably not.
I'm thinking, I've got a lot
It's a rhetorical
beside my
question, because I know the
house
answer, but
that is
I'm
a
just
service
curious to get it
lot.
on,
And
Pardon?
it's been, I have a lot that's beside our property, right?
Yeah.
It's another house. There was a house on it and we tore it down.
Right.
But it is a separate lot.
Yeah.
But I have no intentions on building on that for quite a while, so.
what I'm saying is if you sold the lot, to someone else
Yeah.
tomorrow, would,
Still think that's.
would there be a stipulation that
that's
something has to be built
pushing
on it?
I think it's more of an individual choice, like if she wanted to sell
Exactly.
it, that's her private.
Because I
decision
raise
in
it because
town.
this is, let's face it, you talk about elephants in the room. This is one of the big elephants in the room in Westville. There are people that own numbers of lots that are vacant throughout town. And, they're not generating anything that benefits the residents of Westville.
Correct.
Some people.
They're not
may
even
purchase-
benefiting the person that owns it.
Right.
Because they're paying taxes on
But
it.
somebody, they still have to pay taxes on the lot regardless
Yes.
if there's anything on it or not.
That's what I mean.
Somebody may purchase that lot of land from me tomorrow
Hmm.
and want to pay what they have spent on that, purchasing that land before they're able to afford to be able to put something on it. So we basically would be telling them, you have to have enough money to do this before you can go and do anything. And I mean, we're not
That's a
bankers,
reach.
we're
It's a
not bankers,
reach.
it's a very,
I don't have
we're
the
not
answer. I don't have
bankers.
the answer, but I'm just
No, but
raising it.
this
as
is-
It is a,
It
is an issue.
communities have done, the way
Yeah.
they've dealt with that is, often there are, things called like vacant lot or land taxes so what they do is, charge more for vacant lots in an attempt to encourage the owners of those vacant lots to do something with them, right?
Right.
So that's one other way. I don't know that the town, the approach of telling a private owner that they have, whenever they sell, they have to, their client or their buyer has to build within 2 years is coming close to expropriation of
Yeah.
part of the bundle of rights that you have as a property owner.
Right.
Right? Because you get to choose how and when you develop within certain boundaries. So that's coming close to partial expropriation, I would argue. On the other hand, taxation is a age-old, well-trodden municipal power and privilege. And the MGA gives us that power and privilege. And so you can use that to encourage people to do something. I mean, that's what taxes are about, right? I mean, at some level, that's what taxes are about. They're about,
Our
paying
services
for,
and our-
paying for infrastructure, common infrastructure. but you can also use them as a tool of persuasion, basically, right? Without demanding that anybody do something, you can say, well, you know, you can have that vacant lot next to you as long as you want, but it's gonna cost you because the town would prefer you to actually use it for some constructive development purpose. And if you don't wanna do that, that's fine, you
That's right.
just belly up to the bar and hand over your money,
Pay your
right?
taxes.
And pay more.
So,
And so that would be a relatively easy fix.
Yeah.
It's within our power and privilege under the MGA. We just have to decide to do it.
Right.
another
You have to
option.
say, this is an important thing, and that's really what you're trying to say.
Right, I'm
Is
trying
by
to open
putting
the
this
door to
in
the
here-
conversation.
Yes.
The other one is the
Well,
vacant
you
prop, the
did.
vacant buildings. The other one is the vacant homes.
Yes,
Or-
that's a bigger concern to
The
me
biggest
right now.
one is
Yeah.
the homes that are currently on a piece of property but are vacant, have been vacant for a number of
And
years.
And are
being
in-
run down.
Disarray.
So
Yeah.
that
So the same
becomes,
tool can be used.
well, and the tool there is the unsightly premises.
Yeah.
That's a rough tool for that, though. There are better tools for that. It occurred to me, and the intent of me bringing this up wasn't to have this particular conversation right now. It's more just to say, like, this is a conversation we should be having.
Yeah, I agree.
But just as an example, to your point, Mr. Mayor, we, through the MGA, have the ability to acquire lands for development. So, for example,
Yes.
if the town, when it sells properties, put that money in a pot, you could use that to buy lands, make an offer to the community, say, look, if anyone has a vacant lot, we would be open to purchasing that, but do understand that we will be selling it for the purpose of development. So rather than telling someone they have to develop it if it's vacant, we could say, look, we'll buy it from you,
Yep.
but we will be seeking to have it developed, so just know that. So, for instance, that would be a way
Yeah.
of not being punishing in any way.
Yes.
But finding a way to the solution that we're hoping to get to, which is to have more housing within the community.
Which is proactive, but it's not coming across
And
as
it's the power
strong
that we have,
arming that you
right.
have, you must do
Exactly.
blah, blah, blah. That's not gonna fly. But there's ways to be proactive that would be beneficial, and I think it's PAC's goal and all of council's goal is to move our community forward and lessen our taxes. So
Both of those
how
things.
we do that is important.
On a completely different note, but one that I wanted to bring up as well, I've got a clause in here that talks about on-site services. We have a lot of land that people will want to put a house on at some point, and which we will probably not ever get to with water and sewer, given the cost of installing water and sewer. So I wanted there to be a statement in here talking about that. It's like, we're okay with you having, you know, a well and septic or one or the other, depending on what you have available to you. But that's a decision that you as a council will have to make, whether we're going to allow that. I'm uncomfortable with telling people that they have to connect if on their road there's water and sewer. It's like, well, hang on, it's like 200 meters away. That's gonna cost me more than the price of the land to get to it. So I don't know if this is something that has to be discussed at a different committee or in a different way, but to me at least, it's fair to people if they have a piece of property to say, we can't get to you with water and sewer, not in any reasonable way, so we'll let you use on-site. So, wanted to toss that out.
Well, there is houses in town that are running like that now.
Sure, absolutely. But it's not clear, like our subdivision, like a number of our policies and bylaws sections talk about you have to
I
connect.
know, because at one point, in one house in particular that I know of, the town, back quite a few years ago, tried to say, you have to hook up to it.
Right.
And the gentleman that owned the house at the time, he's like, yeah, no.
Right.
I don't have
He
to.
has
I
a
have-
well.
I have a well.
That's right.
I have a septic. I paid for that. Why should I have to turn around and pay for, and at the end of the day, he's still, the well and septic is still
Right.
what runs
That's
the
what he's
house.
using.
And
Yeah.
again, I don't think it's any, you know,
Well, and if the town is successful over time in attracting development, development will get out to those places at
Right.
some point, and services will have to go to follow that development. It just has to be development that can support the cost of the services,
Right.
instead of us putting services out that, you know, for a handful of properties that are going to develop, and then we lose money hand over fist trying to keep that or maintain those
to
services.
maintain them.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely a hot topic because there are people currently in that situation. So we need to be clear on what the rules are and how
But I
we
think
go
have
about
to
dealing
make
with that.
sure that, you know, that people are aware that it has to be in an area of the town that don't have the services
That's
to
right.
them, right? If the services are there, you need to use them.
That's right.
You need to utilize them because we have to pay for those services
That's
somehow,
right.
right?
Yeah.
And we, yeah, so.
Yeah,
That
we
would
need to
have
be
to be
very clear on that so
yeah,
that
it
there's
needs to
not
be
the
really
gray
written out
areas of
very
the past.
specifically.
Yeah, yeah.
So, there's no questioning it.
Nearing the end of this policy discussion, I've jumped across some stuff I don't think we need to bring up. We already have some urban design requirements in the land use bylaw for the downtown. I'm going to propose a few more. This came out from our work with the Dalhousie planning students, and also it really came out during the work that was done when Fowler Bob Mitchell came to town and surveyed the town, about the downtown in particular. And, you know, someone paying attention to architecture was one of the things that came up several times, along with just taking care of the whole downtown core environment. So I'll be inserting some things there. One of the ones I wanted to talk about briefly, and I don't want to debate it right now, I just want to get agreement that we should be doing this. When you look at the existing documents, and we've talked about this previously, they kind of are talking out of both sides of their mouth with respect to the C3 zone. They say, we want this great gateway to the community. However, even though it may hurt our downtown, we're going to let you do pretty much anything there. So they're saying on the one hand, we want a really great gateway, but then they say, except that we don't want to limit what can happen there. It's like, well, you can't do both. It's one or the other. And so we've all seen that the list of allowable uses in the C3 zone is kind of crazy extensive. So I would propose, if everyone's on board, to come back with a revised list of uses that is more in keeping with doing a good gateway, a good entrance to the community. Now, I know there's not that many lots left to be developed there, although rezonings can change that. But it also could be that some of the lots that are taking up a huge amount of space may choose to say, look, I see the direction the gateway's going. It's going toward things like small hotels and things like that. I can sell my land that I'm currently parking, I don't know, cranes on, and sell that as a series of smaller lots that could be developed for much higher value, like highest and best use kind of a thing. But right now, we've given no reason for them to do that. And so I would propose that we reconsider with the original intention, which was to create a great gateway into the community, our only gateway into the community from the highway. And so I just wanted to toss that out and see if that made sense to people.
That makes more than enough sense for exit 21. Yes, please.
Okay? Got my marching orders on that one. Anything else I need to talk about? I'm not going to start talking about industrial because we haven't gotten there, and it's in such a state of change right now that I'm not even really sure what to do with it. I think that we're going to have to maybe save that discussion for future consideration.
Okay.
So I think that's it for MPS-related stuff that I wanted to bring up tonight.
Really? That's it?
Would you like me to keep going? I can.
Want to start from the beginning again?
Start from the beginning again.
There's so much material that we're trying to go through. I don't know a way to give this back to you in a way that's easy or simple. It's just,
No.
There's so much complexity in this.
Yeah, well, you're tackling a huge mountain, so thank you.
We're undoing, you know.
The creepy crawlies.
A decade and a half of kind of goofy planning
At
documents
least.
that were built in a very strange way and need to be completely rewritten so that they work in the 21st century
And they work for us.
and that they work for
Westville.
Westville.
They benefit our town.
Could I ask you a question about mixed residential?
Oh, I
Oh,
thought you were
sorry,
looking
no,
at
for
the.
you, sorry.
I was like,
So where
Yes,
my-
I would like to know as well.
Sorry. Well, I was trying to speak into the mic. So where my sister lives in Gatineau, Quebec, they allow that, but they also allow single dwelling. So you can have a single dwelling with townhouses, et cetera. That would still be sort of the image here, that you could have a variety dependent on what the plan was,
I
rather
mean,
than just
I don't think we would preclude it. I think it would be kind of a waste of the space to do it that way, but it's not something that we would say no to. Normally, when you look at what we currently call the R3 zone, it will say you can do R1 uses according to R1 zone, you can do R2 according to this, and you can also do apartments and things like that. So I think that that same sort of approach could be there. The question is, should it be there?
Right.
Should
The-
you use that zone in that way
Right.
to allow low-density uses when the whole point of it is to actually get more efficiency?
So what they were trying to work towards is families.
Right.
So that one side of the road is townhouses, and one side is what I would call modestly sized single homes. And part of that was to raise the tax base at the same time, and the developer make more money. So I was just trying to see if that would ever be considered. I agree, you want maximum use, but it is a model I've seen.
Right. Everything's on the table. How are people's energy?
This is our fourth night of meetings. What do you think, Sean?
It's December, and I'm an elementary school teacher, Sean.
Any other questions?
So let me just walk through some of the land use bylaw in that instance. I'm going to try plugging in. I think we may have to turn some lights down. Do we know which of these kills these? That kind of helps.
It doesn't really matter.
Now I've got to figure out how to see what I need to see and not have it pitch up there.
HDMI 3, I think it is.
Yeah, it's up where it needs to be, but I need to see a different screen than, my God, the mouse is so slow on this when I do this. Okay, if I put up something else, I think it's going to pop up. So right now it's mirroring, and I need it to not mirror. Yeah, so I've got to change this. Display settings. I need to extend. All right. Now I've got to figure out where my mouse slides onto the page. Okay, so that's where the mouse comes on. And let's bring up this and slide it over. Oh, look at that. It's working.
I thought it was a Dodge
And then
Ram.
this is the hard part. Now that I can't see that anymore, everything is microscopically small.
Yeah.
And even that is way too small. So if I can get my mouse to go way down
People on
here.
YouTube seeing this screen?
Not yet,
Okay.
but as soon as we've got something.
I'm
then
trying to
we can.
get this to go up a bit, and it's refusing to do it.
Very tiny.
Yeah. Huh. I don't know how to
So you
expand
can
this.
Get rid of the stuff on the left-hand side.
Well, I can, except that that's, I mean, it would normally be how I quickly move around the document. But normally I can, hang on, let me bring this back and then see if I can expand it and then bring it back over. So I don't know why it wasn't allowing
There's
me.
that Dodge Ram commercial again.
That's probably too big, though. This might be good.
Do you want me to stand up and read it to you in my teacher voice?
It's bigger.
Can you guys kind of see that?
Yes.
All right. I'm just not really going to be able to see what's over here, so my ability to move around quickly is going to be somewhat limited. Did you guys know we had an adult entertainment use section in the zoning bylaw? I wondered, do we need that? I'm thinking we
You
don't.
might.
You never know what new businesses might start up downtown,
Well, especially on the gateway in.
right?
Draw some lines, draw some lines.
Oh, this is going to be interesting. My mouse works the opposite way for some reason now. All right, so there's been a number of changes in definitions. And let me just move my mouse back onto my screen over here and call attention to some. As you know, and I think some of these I can just tell you about, we had, for example, the definition of a single dwelling unit, a single detached dwelling rather, had in it that you had to build it from sticks on the site. you could not bring anything to the site that was pre-assembled.
Right.
Because, again, somehow that may have allowed a mini home or a mobile home to come to a site. It also, in theory, at least if you follow it strictly to the wording, it would prohibit roof trusses or wall panels, for instance. Any number of things that may arrive partially pre-assembled. None of that, none of that was permitted. Anyway, it's gone. It also didn't allow anything with the wall size to be, no wall could be less than 6.1 meters or 20 feet. So it's like, well, what if I want to do a little bump out? You couldn't do that, not legally at least, according to this. So those things are gone. The definition of building also had things like that in it. A building couldn't be a mobile home, for instance. That was gone, and things like that. So we've taken all those sorts of things out that are trying to regulate through definitions, and we've just left the definitions. The one that currently is still there, and I'm struggling with this now because it's still regulating from within the definition, is that a single detached dwelling can still be a single detached dwelling even if it has a secondary suite. The idea of secondary suites is that they're not like a full apartment. They are small. They're really part of the home. They don't have the same fire regulations. They have interconnected doors. There's a number of things about them. And it's like, does that fundamentally change it or not? And I haven't landed any place solid on that. Well, it's a bit like that, but with the benefits of a kitchen and a bathroom as opposed to shared. So for now, I may just leave it because it's easier and I don't have to do as much rewriting of other sections. And it's kind of always been there, so I'm not actually changing that. But I am getting rid of the things that preclude you from bringing modules to create a building out of. Right, exactly. Let me just see what else I've got in definitions. That was in the definition, a number of them. Dwelling, detached dwelling, duplex, all of them had those same things in there. The loading space had some funny definitions that I've suggested to get rid of because they were really being prescriptive again within the definition. I think that if we want to be prescriptive, we do it in the land use bylaw. I'm not going to try to zoom around and find all these because there's like about 10 or 15 pages of definitions. I've changed the reference in garage and garden suite to auxiliary dwelling units, which is what they properly are. They're not secondary suites, they're accessory dwelling units. They also had those same provisions about wall size and things like that. Changed the definition of mini home park to land lease community, or I've redirected it rather. The definition of secondary suite used to refer to how big it could be, but it talked about going to the maximum as opposed to the minimum, and so I just fixed that because it was backwards from where it was meant to be. And other things like that that just make more sense. There's probably a bunch of definitions we could get rid of, but I don't have time right now to go into that, because when you think of certain things, we know what they are. We don't need to define them if they're commonly held to be certain things. So maybe in another round, we'll slim our definition section down by about half, which would be good. We've already talked about revised zone titles. In the administration section, which I'm not showing here, it happens before, we've really pretty substantially revised numbering. I got to get my mouse back over there. I need like spy glasses to do this. And I need this to go a little faster. There we go. So this is now the new numbering section. It's very simple. There's part, section, subsection, article, and sentence. And that's all I have. I don't have anything more than that, and it's all organized on that basis. I've done things like lump together everything about development permits and applications for them and everything else all into one area. Currently, they're spread all over the place, which, again, just makes it hard to use for people. Most of this hasn't really changed. It's just been reorganized for clarity. So all of that was all scattered everywhere, everything on these 2 pages.
Make it user-friendly.
That's what we're hoping to do. We've reduced the size by half in the work we've been doing so far, which is also good. Now, some of that, in fairness, was just getting rid of things we don't have like sections that didn't make any sense for Westville, but
Right.
still.
The stuff that were relative to other.
There is a provision here about the Planning Advisory Committee, and I think that we have a policy about that, Mr. Weirs, yes? Do we have a clear policy on how it's structured and how
Yep.
long terms
Yeah,
last?
we have a terms of reference.
Right,
and-
okay.
And it's set up in the MGA, right? So
It is in the
it's
MGA.
required
Yes, it
by
is.
the MGA,
Yeah.
and we're required to have a terms of reference, and we do, and, yeah.
So we should probably mention that we have a policy in there.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call it a policy, it's a terms of reference.
Okay.
So here's,
Well, we can-
here's how it works, here's what the voting structure is, here's how you add people, subtract people, all of that sort of stuff. So it's really about how the mechanics of PAC works.
Yep.
I just see that I haven't pulled across the section on variances, so I've got to populate that part. In Word, you can open and expand and contract things, which is really handy when you're working in a big document. So site plan approval, it's not simplified so much as, again, anything that was redundant, I'm trying to get rid of. And so I'm putting these within the administration section so people will think to go there, perhaps, I hope. I'm going to propose, since we're here, that we use the same requirement the Municipal Government Act has for notices. Because right now, we're using double what is required, even for small things. And in my mind, it's waste of staff.
So what we need to do is establish a minimum. The minimum has to be in line with the MGA.
Right.
And then if council chooses, because they want more public involvement or whatever, they can always raise the bar.
That's right.
But the base has to be what is statutorily required.
30 meters is
right?
what's required.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, it's perfectly legitimate for a council to say, we want to do more because we want to engage people in this, or we're worried that this might be controversial or whatever. But there should also be a minimum that if, something is, everybody's in support, we don't go and do 3 times the work that we don't need,
Right.
than we need to do, right?
It's a lot of staff resources when you're,
Yeah.
particularly in the older part of town where you have smaller lots. 60 meters can cover a lot of properties. And, you may be doing a variance, it's just looking at a house being a foot closer to its side lot line. Does everyone within 60 meters need to have a say on that, right? Kind of doesn't make sense. Even at 30 meters, you're capturing a lot more people than actually will be bothered by that
Yeah,
little
it's a
variance.
case-by-case situation.
And certainly from a staff
But you
perspective.
need a minimum.
If there is anything that if I feel, as I'm being asked to look at a variance, for instance, that it's something that does need or merit a broader distribution, I'm gonna come to PAC, look, guys, I've got this, I feel that we should go beyond
Yeah.
this.
It's gonna depend on where it is, the area.
And the
of
nature
town.
of the use.
And the use, yeah.
Right, so we'll tweak that to comply, but also to introduce or to make sure it's clear that council, in the cases where there's increased complexity or a broader area would be interested in this.
We've done that on a couple occasions already.
Yeah, that's
We've
right,
exceeded-
without a policy,
We've
we've done
exceeded
it,
the
so-
minimum requirement of notification,
We do that a lot.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if somebody came in and said, I want to build, a 22-story building, a 22-story building in Westville would impact the entire town.
Right,
Because it would be within everybody's sightline.
that's right.
Yes.
So, yes, there should be a higher standard for that.
Robinson Way would be safe, probably.
Robinson Way may not see it. but-
Doesn't have to go to them. So here you can kind of see now, you're starting to see how this looks when you look at the document. So you're seeing, and the ones that don't have numbers that are in a larger text, that's what shows up over here. So it's easy to find your way around in the document now, find the kinds of things that would be important to anyone using the document. And then you can see how it goes down from there. So 414, it has subsections, and then you jump to 415, then you get back to the next one. So that's basically how it's built. This one main building on a lot, that's one of the ones that we have to change because we have, and I'm gonna put a little yellow guy on that because it says mini home park instead of land lease community. There's hundreds and hundreds of funny little things I've got to ferret out and update. But there are a number of places where you can have more than one building on a lot. And so we have to, and we're introducing more opportunities for that. So we've got to, make sure we populate that correctly.
You can't have a pocket neighborhood if you're saying that.
Right, exactly.
You got a 2-acre flag lot, and you're trying to put a pocket community on there with 12 units, that disallows that. Right?
So here's another one, street frontage. This is one of the ones I mentioned before. If we're going to allow flag or landlocked lots, the landlocked lots don't have street frontage. So this section will have to be updated to reflect that. And speak of the devil. So here's what I've said, and this is quite new, and you guys haven't seen this before. So let me just run through this, because I think this is one of the important ones. So where permitted, flag lots may be developed subject to the following. 1, minimum lot area and width requirements applied to the buildable portion of the lot, excluding the access strip. So it has to be as big as the lot size is required for the zone. But you don't count the strip. New construction shall meet specific setbacks on the flag lot proportion of the lot. Flag lot access strips must be a minimum of 6 meters wide. And that actually works with our subdivision bylaw, because that's the minimum size you can create in a lot under most subdivision bylaws. It's actually 19 feet, but we're close enough. We're a little bit above it. To accommodate driveways, utilities, and snow storage. And then utility easements. This is an important one now that we've had conversations with Nova Scotia Power. Utility easements must be secured prior to subdivision approval, because I don't want to go through the trouble of doing a subdivision only to find out that Nova Scotia Power is going to say, can't put poles there.
Right.
So 4110 is now on the landlocked lots. So where permitted, landlocked lots may be created subject to the following. And see that little hashtag policy? That's my reminder. I search for all the places I have that, and then I go and check and see if I have policy that supports the new bylaw provision. 1, landlocked lot access easements must be a minimum of 6 meters wide, same width, and legally registered. 2, shared driveways / easements must include maintenance agreements registered on title. So everyone who buys one, their lawyer will say, oh, by the way, you're responsible for whatever it is that.
Half the maintenance of the.
Right. And that was speaking, Sarah, to your question. Utility easements must be secured, same thing, and new construction shall meet use-specific setbacks. So that's what I've got on that. And then I've got where driveways abut side yards of existing development, they shall be screened with landscaping or fencing. So do we want that or not? It could be very expensive for someone to do that if they have to put up a fence for, I think 60 meters is what I'm allowing as a maximum length unless the fire chief agrees to something longer. But it seems kind of fair that if you're going to drive a new driveway in that could carry, multiple cars every day, and you're running right by someone's existing side yard, that we would want something like that. I'm putting that out for discussion. So if you guys want to give some thought to that, that would be helpful. Driveway length, this one is a safety one. 60 meters seems to be something that that other municipalities have been comfortable with, but we'll want to talk to our own people and see what their feeling is on that. It can be longer with approval from the fire chief. So if they say, no, we've got no problem hauling hose for an extra 100 meters or something, we're fine.
Depending on where the hydrant is.
Exactly. Or if there is one.
Right.
Right?
They just use their tank for them, so.
Right. So, but I want them to make that call, not me.
Right. But they still have to have the hose to do it, so.
And then newly created flag and landlocked lots shall be considered existing non-conforming lots for the purpose of this development. And so basically they will be new, but they won't have the required frontage that the bylaw normally requires. So we would be giving them the same powers as you would have for an existing non-conforming lot, which is basically allows you to develop it as long as you meet setback requirements. So that's what I've tossed in there. It's all as of right now. There's not anyone going to the neighborhood, us having public hearings or public meetings every time one of these comes up. So if anyone feels like I'm missing an important consideration, bring it up. But I think that's, pretty solid as a starting place. Existing buildings. Anywhere you see a red thing like this means that I've changed something. because I'm in the simple markup right now. I can also show all the changes, which would fill the entire screen with a lot of lines and red color and green color and stuff. But I don't need to get into that. These yellow things just mean I need to update the policy references because those are old, but I can't do that until the policy's all drafted because they're constantly in flux too. Reduce lot requirements, restoration to save conditions, permitted encroachments. Really not much change in here. This is, like if your setback is supposed to be 6 feet, for example, on a side yard, this is already in the bylaw basically, but it's saying a porch can push into that, or some other kind of bump out, or a chimney, or a carport, and there's requirements around how much they can push in. But I haven't gone in and addressed it or changed any of those. You can see it's still referring to fire exits. I don't think we have anything that would be officially thought of as a fire exit. Fences.
Sorry.
You picture New York with those metal fire exits that have the stairs. that slip.
point?
Down, no, down the side of the building,
Yeah.
like
Side of the
escape.
building, like an
Yeah,
orange
fire
or-
escape.
Pick it up where you're laying down now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Haven't changed. We have pretty good height regulations. I haven't gone and done anything with those. Temporary uses, accessory uses in buildings. I'm not going to get into any of this right now. Again, there's not a lot of change. It's more just a reorganization. It's ongoing, yeah. This is one of these ones that this section I think I'm going to take out altogether. We aren't obliged to put in all the instances where site plan approvals can be used. We do have to do it for development agreements. So this section, 4.4, I've got to make sure every place policy allows us to do a development agreement goes in here in the land use bylaw. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for seeing all the development agreement opportunities. That's not obligated under the MGA for site plan approval. You guys bored yet? You glad you came tonight? Yeah?
First fell asleep 10 minutes ago. I mean,
There may be some site plan approval, and this may be one of them because it applies to so many different zones, which is also why it's really confusing. Should be in this section where site plan approvals that apply to a whole bunch of zones should go here, and I'll change the title to reflect that because mostly you get directed to the opportunities to use site plan approvals within the zones. So those were all the places right now where we currently give ourselves the ability to use development agreements. It's a lot and way more than we should have. So we want to see about reducing those a bit. Right, exactly. There's the section on outdoor swimming pools I've already mentioned. Mostly I'm going to take this out and just rely on the bylaw. What do you guys think about outdoor furnaces, those wood furnace things? Most communities don't want them in towns because of people who have allergies to particulate matter and wood burning. But maybe it's okay in the rural residential, for instance, because it's so vast.
Do we
I
actually
think
have
there's
any
lots
in
of
town?
Well, I think there's lots of people who do burn wood in town.
Yeah.
But in the outdoor furnaces I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right. But
So
whether-
wood
Whether
doctors.
it's an outdoor furnace or a fireplace.
Right.
Or an indoor wood furnace.
It's smoke's
kind of
still
all
there.
the same thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yes and no. What has been happening is even like stores will buy a wood doctor, put it out back, and then they'll burn all the garbage in it, all their plastic
Yeah.
waste, everything. They are treated and also when it's a bit cold out, but not really cold, they dampen them way down and they don't burn properly. And then you get a lot of really heavy smoke.
I think people do that in their houses too, really, like in their wood stoves.
Compliance for sure. A lot more smoke.
Right.
Wood doctor chemical.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's lower to the ground as well, right? It's not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's a good point.
That's a,
Good
yes.
point.
Doesn't
It
get
is
up over
very
the
low,
top of
right?
it.
It's only 10 feet off the ground as opposed to 15 or 20, right?
So
In droughts, that'll be a problem.
I wanted to bring this up to see what, the PAC and council think about this. I don't,
So leave it there, but highlight it as
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
question to be wrestled to the ground.
right.
Yeah.
This one, garden plots, this is, if people want to have a community garden, they can do it on town land. And this was in every single friggin' zone. It was just amazing. I was like, okay, we don't need to have that in every zone. We can have that in one spot. So that's what this section is allowing. It's allowing us to kind of put all of the stuff that can happen in multiple zones, like corner vision triangle, in one spot, as opposed to having it repeated ad infinitum. Ad infinitum? Parking and loading, I haven't really gotten deep into that at all. There's a lot there. This is interesting. This is on the number of designated spots for wheelchairs. It goes all the way up to 1,700. I'm not sure what use we would ever get that would need 1,700 parking spots, but, or anywhere in Pictou County for that matter.
Well,
Well,
think big, dream big.
1,700.
All right, I'm gonna cruise through this. Normally, I would just be clicking on the sections on the side over here,
Stand by,
but
you know, we have some developers with some big ideas, Sean.
it's true. Not that big.
Stand by, never say never.
Okay. A lot of towns have gotten rid of the ability to put what I call mobile signs up, and those are those ones with wheels, and you stick letters all over the side
Oh,
of.
lovely, yes.
Right. I heard some derision in your tone there. So are we good with those? Do we want to allow them all over the place? Because there's the bylaw currently speaks out of both sides of its mouth on this. On the one hand, it says they're for special events. On the other hand, it basically doesn't have any time limit on how long you can use them. So what a lot of towns will say, if you're doing a grand opening of a new building and you want to let everyone know that you've got something new, you can put one up for a period of, say, 2 weeks or something like that. But they're not meant to be a permanent sign. And so I don't know that we need to wrestle that one to the ground right now, but it's one that I think we should talk about. We don't have, amazingly, we don't have a lot in town. But they sure stick out, which I guess is the point, when you do have them. I haven't looked at that. I think we're allowed to have signs, ground signs, 20 feet high in the downtown, which makes no sense to me because in the downtown, you're going pretty slowly. You don't need to be looking up, 2.5 stories in the air at signage. So I think that there's some tweaking in there, but again, not now. Hopefully after, people listening to this don't come in and start applying for really tall ground signs. That's still signage. Trust me, this is much shorter than it used to be. I didn't dig into the mural section now. I think it's unnecessarily difficult to put up murals according to the current requirements. And we, of course, have our new, work that we've done on that. We probably don't want to make it hard on people if they're going to do something like a mural. Environmental considerations. So this is one of the new areas where we've put a few things together. This section, altering of land levels, is to do with grading and drainage plans. I don't think Westville's been big on requiring those, much to its chagrin, or to mine at least, as a planner. So it's important that it's in there and that we do think about those so we have a bit of a sense of where water's going to go. One of the things that I'm proposing is this one, required landscaping. So we don't have anything right now that suggests you can't just pave everything. And of course, if you're trying to limit the heat buildup you get with asphalt, or if you're trying to limit how much and how quickly stormwater runs off a property and surcharges ditches and drains, and our sewer drains that are still combined in many cases, you need to pay attention to this. And so what I'm proposing is that people will come in for an application, they'll say, here's my building, and I'll say, okay, well, you need this many parking spaces. And then they come back with just a big area of land for parking without it designed. And we've seen an example of this, the church on the corner of Temperance. Have you guys seen how much asphalt went down there? It's amazing. They basically, the whole lot just got paved. And that's an area where we have flooding concerns around the corner of Campbell's Road, I think, and Drummond. So I'm proposing that we start to pay more attention to that and that we suggest you're going to landscape everything that isn't parking or a walkway or a building. So more grass, more absorbent material that
Which
can.
we've been doing in our more recent developments, like all of the other plans.
Right.
That we've discussed at this committee and been like, you're gonna have this amount of grass, this amount of trees, this
Right.
amount, like we put them right in the plans, like.
And one of the challenges with this is that compacted gravel, it's like, well, it's just gravel. It's like, that doesn't drain. You look at how long water will stay pooled on compacted gravel, it's almost like pavement, especially in the winter conditions. It just stays there or runs off. Environmental protection, so get into this one. We've got also subsidence in this section too, because it's in a way, an environment, it's a man-made, but an environmental condition that the ground under your house may not be stable in those areas that are defined or outlined as such. That one right now needs a bit more work. It's what was there before. We're supposed to have an environmental features map. We don't have that map. And it was supposed to be Schedule C, I think. That would have identified wetlands, but we don't have it. So this is saying, okay, I didn't have to change that. It was already there. I just have to now change it to showcase the kinds of things that in this community we have as environmental considerations. This used to have all of the information about what had to be in a report in the land use bylaw. Like, it made no sense for it to all be there. And so instead, I've taken that out and I've just referenced the report. And Mr. Weirs would have a copy of what has to be looked at, and he would give that to anyone who is seeking to do development in an area identified as possibly having a subsidence issue.
And it would reflect all the recent testing and up-to-date stuff that
Yeah,
previously we thought was subsidence land, but
Right,
isn't.
yeah, we're still, you know, that's a multi-year process, right?
Yeah.
So we don't know what we don't know, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We think we know what we know, but I don't think
It's
it's
getting
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
it's starting to
It's getting
clear up a little bit.
And we do have, they went through it at, I think they went through it at All About You. Didn't they do some, they had to do
Yeah, we had-
write a report for that, the
Yeah.
addition they did.
Yeah.
So we do have a policy or a report format that has to be followed for that kind of application. Created a new pocket just called renewable energy. And so we've already got wind power in our bylaw. And right now, I'm not proposing to change it, except as we have to do according to the new provincial requirements. Because they have, I think as of this past January,
Yep.
come up with some new numbers, so we'll have to embed those in the document. And it's a place where we could see in the town small-scale wind turbines. We probably won't ever see large-scale. We could see geothermal, and we certainly could see solar. So I haven't written anything under solar yet. I haven't had a chance to think about it. I am impressed by how many applications I get.
Comes from the sun, Scott, or Sean.
What's that?
Solar comes from the sun.
I know, it's awesome. It's
Start
like-
there.
Once you figure it out, it's good.
Anywhere there's sun in town, you know?
Cool.
We'll permit it.
It's more if we want to permit solar gardens, for instance. Okay, so this is the general residential section I mentioned before. So anything to do with things that happen within residential zones, but across all of them or most of them. So this was a funny one that got repeated over and over again, and the wording was awkward. So it's like if you've got a setback that says you have to be back 20 or 25 feet, but the houses on either side of you are right down at the street, you could actually put your house right down at the street if we allow it. And so that's what this provision does. So you would have you know, kind of uniformity along the street, or you would fit with your neighbors. You don't have to, but you could do it. This one is in there and I've left it. I don't know that anyone even knew it was there. It's basically saying that when you put houses in something like an R1 neighborhood, you have to make sure your big lots or big side yard and your small side yard are replicated all the way up the street. So right now, yes, that's in there now. So for example, on Angel or Fraser, if someone was putting in a house, they'd have to make sure that on one side they did their 8-foot yard and the other side they did their 4-foot yard. I could take that out if,
Yeah, I would.
Seems a little prescriptive.
Yeah, it does.
it sure is. I haven't changed anything about bed and breakfasts. I don't know if we have many
Don't
or,
have any.
We don't have any in town.
which
I
is
don't
kind
think
of
so.
shocking.
I know, right?
Would that encompass things like Airbnb as an example?
So, I mean, Airbnbs don't offer breakfast, so that isn't a bed and
We
breakfast.
don't have any of those.
And we don't,
Short-term rental is.
right now, that's right, we don't regulate them. Some communities that are having an issue with them do, but I don't think we have an
We
issue
don't
with
have
them
any
because
as
I've
well.
looked it up and there are none. When I thought I may want to bunk in for the night because of a bad snow event or something, it's like, ah!
They're provincially, short-term rentals are provincially regulated,
Yes.
and we are obliged to collect a fee for short-term rentals if you have one in your town. We don't have any in our town. but we gave ourselves, we have a bylaw or policy around short-term rental. So,
I didn't
there's
know that.
There's a tax that the municipalities collect, and then we remit to
Deans,
Deans, I guess in our case. that's
or
right.
coastal, whatever it's called
Right,
now.
yeah, coastal Nova Scotia now, I think.
Is that on our website?
Yeah, it should be, I think. Anyway, we have none, just,
But should we keep it in case?
yeah, well.
It's
I mean,
better
well,
through-
bed and breakfast would, I
Yeah.
don't think bed and breakfasts fall under the short-term rental thing.
Which is
They
odd.
fall under a different regulatory regime,
more-
but, yeah.
Hotel type legislation.
Yeah,
Well, it's, yeah,
we don't have any roofed accommodations, so.
Right.
yeah.
Hotel?
Yeah.
Well, it's anything that's short-term rental,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but be nightly, like
So are
That's short-
hotels.
That's short term.
picking up where you're laying down. It's been 2 hours, boys, rock.
So this is the section that you get directed to if you're doing a garden suite or a garage suite. The only thing I've really done here is I made it clear that there was always a provision saying you had to have it at least 13 feet away from a main building, but I wanted to make sure it was clear that that was any main building, not just on your own property, but you can't put it right up against someone's house next door. There has to be a setback to it. Also, I'm starting to push more on the metric side because the Municipal Government Act is in metric and we're in Canada, as it turns out. And so I'm making those the main numbers as opposed to the feet and inches part. I also, what did I do? I increased the minimum side yard a little bit to 6 feet, 6 feet or 2 meters actually. 2 meters gives you a better fire separation. There's a whole bunch of things, but mostly it gives you the room to put a ladder up and do maintenance on something. Whereas if you're much closer than that, you can't really work on that side of a building. And it's just a little bit more space for the neighbors. Currently, there is a provision that talks about a maximum of 1 garden suite or garage suite per lot. We could, down the road, revisit that and say through site plan approval or maybe even development agreement, if we want to be harsh, you could have more than one. Because if you've got a big lot, if you've got a big piece of land, why couldn't you have a couple little cottages? I think it'd be great, honestly. So I wanted to bring that to your attention as the way it's currently. I didn't change it. That's what it says now. But maybe there could be something that says, you know, in this zone, you can't have more than one if your lot is under a certain size. So make it size-based.
Right.
Or you may have one with site plan approval.
Or
Yeah.
bump it up to that.
Add
Or you
Right,
may have more than one with site plan
Yeah.
approval.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, this one, we'll see what you guys think on this. I've got one of my hashtag policy symbols in there. Irrespective of zone designation, existing mobile homes may be replaced, and currently it says with another mobile home. And I've changed that to with mini homes or other single detached dwellings. And the reason I did that is because any actual mobile homes now are old, probably full of water, really hard to heat. They're really not good housing. Like you will spend more money every year on oil than you will save by having one. And so as soon as you jump to a mini home, which they came out in 1986 under the CAN spec CSA Z240, you had 2x6 walls with R20 insulation. You have R40 in the ceiling. Like they're built like a normal house. And so my view is if we're trying to be, you know, fair to the environment and actually give people affordable housing, let them bring in a mini home, a small mini home.
Yeah.
But-
You should not be able to replace a 1969 mobile home with a 1972 mobile home.
Right.
They actually even make them with the wheels out of them anymore?
They don't, but you can still buy them, right? You could go buy one that someone's giving up.
Existing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they probably have aluminum wiring in them.
The walls are 2x3 and,
Yeah.
and
But a lot
rotten
of
at this
those-
point.
A lot of the wiring in those was aluminum, and that's kind of a no-no anymore.
So
That's
that's
many
where
fires.
I'm proposing we land on that one. If you guys feel that I'm pushing too hard on that, but it's really substandard housing. And I don't think we should be encouraging people to be putting those in. And rent it
right.
out is probably what would happen with them too, right? This one's a little bit different. mini homes not in a land lease community. So, we've got the new title there for one thing. Currently, and it's only supposed to apply in the rural residential according to the way the bylaw is written, even though other sections of the bylaw would sound like you can put them anywhere. We have it set up so that if you put in a mini home, it has to be parallel to the road. So we are occupying the maximum amount of town infrastructure possible with the mini home. Not sure what was that all about. Maybe it's because they only wanted them on big lots or what it was. But it's kind of the opposite of the intention to provide more affordable housing, which is you use a small lot, not a really big lot, and you don't make people have to get a really big lot. They also often, as you know, don't have any windows or doors or anything in those. And so if you are looking at the narrow end, it can just be a blank wall, which doesn't create a good streetscape, doesn't provide eyes on the street, which is kind of, if you ever read Jane Jacobs' book about all of these things, you would see that eyes on the street are really important to maintaining good neighborhoods. So what I've got, and this is new again, so they shall be sited so as to minimize the use of road frontage. I put that right up front. Shall feature a primary facade with a minimum of, and I think I'm going to have to bump 20% up, 20% window to door or door to wall ratio. So they've actually got a facade. They've got something that looks like the front of a building. And secondary facades, should there be one, so if they're on a corner lot, would have the same ratio at the minimum. Shall not be granted occupancy until such time as all the skirting is installed, which skirting shall be maintained in good condition going forward. We have several places around town that have gone in and they've just never put on any skirting, and they really bring down the neighborhood. It also invites critters, and it also means that your pipes are more likely to freeze. Right. If used as a garden suite, so right now you're not allowed to use them for garden suites. And they do look funny if you've got like a little 2-story house and you put in something that's a 72-foot long mini home, it's going to be a bit of a strange arrangement. So there's a section in here that talks about a 3-to-1 ratio in the existing bylaw. So I brought that forward and said, you can use them, but they can't exceed that ratio, the 3-to-1 width to length ratio, because it keeps them more in the format of an existing house. So now I'm being a bit architecty on this, and I can't help myself. But that's what I've got in there now. It creates a compact, small little unit that would fit nicely in pretty much anyone's backyard. So
if it's 16 feet wide,
you can go up to whatever 3 times 16 is. I'm too tired to figure it out right now. 48, maybe?
48.
Yeah.
And
So
that's probably, that's be a very common size for that use.
Right.
Would be 16 by 48, 44, 48. Yeah,
So you guys can dwell on that, and if you think that I'm asking too much or getting into people's business too much, you can let me know.
I'm sure we will.
I know you will. But I invite it. I'm not going to go into all this. It's about home occupations right
Thank you
now, and
very
there's a
much.
lot there. So thank you. Hobby farms. I haven't touched this, but it's there. What do we think about those? Right now, you can do them in the R1 zone, a hobby
Which
farm.
is the only place you can do them.
Right.
You can't do them in rural residential, but you can do them in R1.
Right.
I have no idea why. but
I'm thinking
that's what
somewhere
it
in
is.
Pictou County, in one of the towns, somebody had horses or wanted to have horses.
In
And
R1, yeah, and everybody got them.
so by putting this where it is, it means that in any of the zones, I can say, you know, as a permitted use, you can have a hobby farm. But we don't have to have it in the R1. And I don't think in our R1 zones we have any hobby farms.
No, but that is how it's written.
Right. It could have even have been a mistake. They could have intended it for rural residential, but
But they repeated it 17 times.
They did, yes.
So they made more than one mistake.
Yeah.
Kennels, there's nothing on kennels, except for the fact that you can have them, and they can be commercial kennels, so breeding and stuff, and, you know, boarding of dogs for long periods of time. I'll have to come up, it's not unreasonable to have kennels somewhere in Westville, but should they be in the denser residential areas? I would suggest maybe in the rural residential areas.
Rural
Right.
residential would make sense.
So I would propose to move them, to allow them in the rural residential, but perhaps not in
That's
the,
a commercial activity.
well, it would be, yeah.
Yes, it would have to be, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'm thinking, what do you guys say? Do we quit at 8:30? Do I try to get us through to
I
that?
was suggesting 8:40, 8:15.
8:50.
You still have updates and stuff to go do.
Yeah, we still have stuff to cover, right?
We have a lot to cover still.
Yeah.
We may, I think I'm going to propose that we have an early January, like have 2 PAC meetings in January at least. And we're going to have a public engagement session too, because you've told the province that we're going to do stuff sooner than later, right?
Can I make a suggestion as well? I would suggest that we could have a working committee meeting of the PAC that would not necessarily have to be a public
Right.
meeting, broadcast meeting. Because really, I think we probably, if we had any viewers at home,
They're all gone.
We've lost
I
them.
think they've long gone. I admire the 3 residents that we have
Yes.
live and in person here in our council chambers. I think we owe them a great gratitude, applause for
Yeah.
sitting through this. I don't think this is something that needs to be discussed openly in public until we get the actual documents done. And then we need to engage our citizens, we need to tell them what we're proposing to do in whatever format we come up with, and then go from there for approval and move forward. But I think that this sort of discussion that we're having, information that you're giving us, which is invaluable, by the way, could be done as a committee, as opposed to in a committee room somewhere.
You guys just tell
other
me how
than-
you wanna do it.
Other than at our public PAC meeting, annual, monthly meeting. I think that, we've gone for 2 hours and 15 minutes now.
I would say the good thing about doing this way is that people know the complexity that we're dealing with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
So
huge.
now they
It's
know
huge.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we'll just say to everyone, and I'll tell people, if you haven't seen it, go to YouTube, view the PAC meeting of December the 17th, and you'll see the work that is involved in making these changes. Because I'm sure that, other than the 3 residents that are here, no one would have any idea that this
Gordon
is.
will help
Right.
transmit the message.
But just a suggestion that we could come together as a
Absolutely.
He's
PAC,
awake.
as a working committee, basically, right? And I don't think we'd be breaking any rules from the MGA to do that or whatever, but we'll come back to the public in a public
we have it
forum
more
when we have
ironed
it
out.
narrowed down.
Yes.
Right?
But I agree with Sean, the sooner we meet, the better. Like, if we're gonna do it as a
But
committee,
it's
that's
just
fine.
separate from our regular PAC meeting.
Yeah,
I guess.
but we are trying to get this done as quickly as possible so we can move things forward. So,
Absolutely.
however long, however soon you need us to meet
This
as
is-
a
this
committee,
is so
this is
important.
incredible.
So
So we'll do it.
important.
I
Let's
think the
move it
closer
forward.
to the 1st of January, more so than the end, because at the end,
Yeah.
we do have a fair amount of meetings in a row, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the sooner we could get it hashed out together,
Right.
right, the better. And then at our PAC, maybe at the end of January, we would have more answers for this.
Well,
Does
and
that
I
make
mean,
sense?
for me, trying to write all of this is
Yeah.
super helpful having these discussions with you guys
Yeah.
to get your sense of, am I,
Yeah.
going overboard in one direction or the other, or not hard enough, or?
Yeah.
No,
I
I
think
think you're to be commended for what you've done here. This is
Yeah,
incredible and a
absolutely.
game changer for our community, so thank you.
And I think it lets
Yeah.
us know, we can let you off the hook a little bit. I'm just gonna say this in my own personal view, for not having our monthly report as we normally have. We now know where your time is being spent, very clearly, and.
massive.
But it's work that needs to be done. And people understand, Sean is not a full-time employee of the town of Westville. He's under contract and he has limited hours that we allow him to do the work for us that we pay him for. So, it,
Goes well above what that
It
is.
is important
Yeah.
that you, as PAC, weigh in on this. And,
Absolutely.
right, because if we don't do some of this, it just becomes a staff exercise.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right?
And then it's
that's
meaningless.
not, from a government
banter back and
perspective,
forth.
that's not the way it should
Yeah.
work. right?
No.
We shouldn't be we staff shouldn't be driving.
No.
We staff should be assisting you in making decisions that you want
That's right.
for this town.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
And I'm loath to have us as staff drive forward and say, okay, we're done, how do you like it so far? We need your involvement.
Yeah.
and that happens in other places,
It
by the way.
does happen
Yeah.
in some other places. from
So we have the
time to
luxury of
time.
not having that here. I agree.
So I get your point, Mr. Mayor, and we'll find another
Yeah,
opportunity.
and I think-
And, you know, it may be one of those opportunities where, you know, the meeting is this day, those who can make it, make it.
Exactly.
And we press on and
Yeah.
do the work, and then
Absolutely.
come back to the whole group with,
Back to the
here's,
drawing board.
Final analysis.
here's where we are.
Can we do a PAC Google meeting, like a Teams meet,
Yes,
Sure.
Too.
right?
absolutely, we can.
If you
Yeah,
wanna
then
come up to
then
my
I
house
can
and
be
set
doing
up,
it from
you go
wherever I
ahead.
am.
Well, also, we could all.
You know where
have
I am too. You
screens
can
and
watch
we
on the
could
computer
focus
with
on
me.
it,
Yeah.
because this is not networks.
Okay.
Do you guys want to? I have one question. Nursing homes are allowed as of right in the residential zone.
What
Like
are,
with
sorry?
Nursing homes.
with no provisions, like no extra requirements. Which, I mean, a nursing home can be a really large thing.
Yes.
And can definitely have an outsized impact in a little residential neighborhood. I would think that they should have to, at the very least, rezone to an institutional use if it's a nursing home, or go through site plan approval if it's not too big, or a development agreement if it is quite big. But right now, it just says you can have a nursing home, and that's it. Same setbacks as your little house.
I think they're kind of trying to get out of, the institutionalized type of housing for those homes now anyway.
They're trying to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly, so.
we'll see how
again,
that
it could be
goes.
like
So,
the same-
Right,
Yeah.
but then we
I
still
don't
have a
know.
96 care bed facility that was supposed to be coming
Right.
to our town real soon.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
And so we did have a provision, if they go on the, the lot that we're hoping they will, of having that go through a DA so that we can have some eyes on, how it all works. But I did feel that, to my mind at least, any of these really large institutional uses shouldn't just get carte blanche. They shouldn't just be able to do the same kind of things that you would do for your small home. And I just wanted to run that out. Are they so sacred that they get to do anything? Because I think that's where it came from.
I don't think anybody's that sacred.
Well, and I think at a distant point in time, nursing homes were often put in large, old Victorian homes.
Exactly, yeah.
And they were single-family homes at one
Yeah.
time, and they became nursing homes.
One,
But those days are largely gone.
Right.
Largely as a result of fire regulations and.
Yeah.
Cross-contamination concerns and that kind of stuff, right? So,
one was Smith's nursing home, and that was down in Cowan and McKay, was it?
Right,
Their
where,
office.
was
Which
that
one?
where sister lives?
Yep.
Florence Duggan.
Yep.
I remember that. Oh,
Yeah,
I've
that
now
was
made,
Smith's
now made to myself.
nursing home.
I can remember going there. It was there, yeah.
I'm too young to remember that.
Probably.
So generally speaking, based upon a lot of information that I just put out, do you guys feel on the whole I'm on the right path?
Yes.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
If you put the lights back on, I could probably keep my eyes open a little longer. Because, oh, much better, okay.
my God.
All right, I'm back.
That's harsh.
All right.
Isn't it though?
That is harsh.
Very.
Can you tone them down?
Okay.
All right, so I can
Update.
unplug this.
Are we done with
So,
that? We're not done
in
with
terms of
that.
updates, there isn't much. Nothing happened in CSS. The mayor and I tried to meet with them this week, but they are.
Oh, there was one thing,
indisposed, Finishing their
The-
annual budget.
abatement thing. That's good news, what you told me today about the abatement thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, so they have had, a couple of weeks ago, had people in to look at what it would take to not fix the joist, but to clean it up to make it possible to fix the joist. And so there are quotes now. The quotes came in significantly below what had been anticipated.
Oh, that's good.
So I think that's a good news thing. My
Like a quarter
telephone
as much as they
conversations
thought it
with
would
the
be.
people from NCSS suggest to me that it's on track and moving forward, and they're working through their due diligence. So, in the new year,
Yeah.
the mayor and I and NCSS will have a meeting to kind of figure out where we are and what the next steps are. So,
So it's still in the mix.
yeah.
I think we'll know a lot more in the next month, for sure. On timing.
Right.
Yeah.
No question it's going ahead. It's just when it's gonna happen.
And I think that's it for updates that I have, that's changed. I mean, outside, you can see where Shaw has gotten to, so they're still working on their infrastructure stuff.
And they're proposing April for the first units to go there.
Correct. I think the first 3 units in early April, and then on a kind of a monthly basis after that.
Right.
So
Where-
2 or 3 every month or so after that. So it'll, by the end of the summer for sure, they should, there should be 10 units there.
When is the infrastructure going in, like power, sewer, water?
Water and sewer.
Water and sewer.
Yeah, when are they going in?
Well, that's what the digging's.
Oh, that's what they're in there now, okay, in the back,
They haven't
it's
put
going
it in
down the
yet.
back part.
I don't know, they chose for reasons that are beyond me to not start to do that until it was freezing out.
Cold.
But,
Yeah.
you know, that's their biz, I guess, right?
And on
the-
I personally would have done it in, you know,
Warmer
July.
There were a lot of community members that asked the same question,
But,
Scott.
you know,
Yeah.
that's, you know, again, it's over to the
It's their
developer to
business.
deal with
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
Right? They
And-
know what they're doing, presumably.
And just, and on the, for those that are interested, the long-term care, as everyone knows, the tenders have closed on that from the provincial situation on putting that out. And we expect that we hopefully will be hearing within, the next month, certainly to 2 months. Certainly by the end of January, I would expect,
February,
from what we've been told, the end of January, 1st of February, we'll know who the proponent is going to, who the province selects
Okay.
as the operator. And then we can have a definite date as to when ground will be broken and
Where
when
ground's
that
gonna
facility will actually be
Yeah,
there,
well,
right?
then what will happen then is, then we'll be in negotiations with,
Right.
in theory, with whoever the proponent is.
Right.
To figure out where they want to actually put it, right? I
Right.
mean, you know, I guess as a town, we're hoping that it goes up at, on South Main. It is entirely possible that a developer or whoever the winner is could decide to do it somewhere else, right? They may purchase a piece of property somewhere else and plop it down there, and then, you know, then we have just, you know, a normal planning, not problem, but a normal development to deal with. And we'll deal with it in the fullness of the process, right?
I'd be very surprised if that happens. But I know what you're saying. We have to be prepared for
Have to
that.
be prepared for the
We have to be
unexpected.
prepared.
Or unwanted,
Yeah, right?
anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that's it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we had delegations on issues or discussion arising from the business. Anyone out here
Still awake?
want to say something? Wants to bring
Don't wanna
anything
go
up?
home.
Clary does.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a comment on that. There was a bit of a misunderstanding at the last council meeting when it was a delegation on issues and it was going to be changed to public engagement.
Yeah,
Which would allow us to
Oh, I
come
guess we did
forward
change
as
it.
Right.
individuals.
yeah.
Last time I came forward as a delegation.
Yeah.
That's just something that
Can
you
that be
update on this
changed?
too then.
I think it is.
Yeah.
That is the wording on our council agenda, I
And
believe.
it should be the same.
On all of the
I wrote
meetings.
public in
Yeah, it
here
should be.
rather than delegations. I
Yeah.
didn't say it, but.
No, it's all right.
Yeah.
Anything else?
We can do that.
Sarah wants to go home.
All right, take that off. Before we're going to go in camera, and before we do that, I'd like to take this occasion to wish all the people who still might be watching this, and the town in general, very Merry Christmas and a very prosperous New Year. Do we have a motion to go in camera?
I will make a motion to go in camera. I'll second.
Motion and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, no?
Do you have something for in camera?
No, I'm good.
There's lots
You
of.
sure?
One and one.
Yeah, we did, but then we ended up talking about it.
Oh, so we don't need to go in camera.
Good
Is
job.
there anything
Is
you
that what
want,
you're saying?
Lenny?
That's,
Andrew?
No.
good to be done.
Nobody wants to be in
Maxine?
camera?
Do you have anything for in camera?
In that case, can we have a motion to adjourn?
I will make